Good morning, guys. So this is going to be an exposing Bethel video. I'm going to show you guys how to read Bill Johnson's hand signs, his wording, and stuff like that. In the past, anytime that I've openly started off the video saying Bill Johnson is a Freemasonic, Luciferian worshipping pastor who brought his Templar militia into Redding, murdered Scott and Darren Grubbs to bring his militia back into Redding, and the people always say, prove it, prove it, prove it. So, this is the process of how I got to this point of making this video this morning. Was oftentimes Bethelites say, don't judge us. Don't judge, don't judge, don't judge. So I've already gone through this teaching that Curtis has several times in the past. I went and was doing a refresher on it and noticed how many of the verses that he brings up directly tie to Bethel being the whore of Babylon, based on the fact that Bethel are Freemasons. Bethel's School of Supernatural Ministry is teaching the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah is the foundation of all Freemason teachings. The things that are abominations in Deuteronomy 18:10 through 12, those things that Yah Elohim did not design, they are unnatural. They are abominations. They are things that he has animosity towards. These things, Scripture says that the 144,000 are those who sigh and cry over the abominations that are being done. The people who are going out and explaining that there are something like 80 abominations listed in Scripture, those are things that are not of Yah's design, they're man's design. Those things are things that he who turns away his ear from hearing the words of this Torah, even his prayers are an abomination. In that same list of abominations, there are Deuteronomy 18:10 through 12 has a chunk of them that are things that Bethel are teaching the students to do on purpose. Those things are abominations. Yah says that the people who are saying those are the abominations, those people are sealed. So, this right here is Curtis doing a teaching on how we are to judge, krino, diakrino, etc. I'm going to let Curtis's last 1 minute of his video be the start of this video. Then we're going to go grab the end of a 4-minute long video of Bill Johnson, because at the very end it's very telling. But then I'm going to take you back into the pictures of Freemasonry and the verbiage that's being used by Bill Johnson and the hand signs that are being used by Bill Johnson, while he is strictly speaking from the overflow of his own heart. He's not using Scripture in context. He's going to create this whole honor system thing, okay? So let's start off with Curtis real quick.
Psalm 46-8. In sacrifice and offering you have not delighted, but you have given me an open ear. Burnt offering and sin offering you have not required. Then I said, behold, I have come. In the scroll of the book, it is written of me. By the way, if you don't think this is speaking about Yeshua HaMashiach, then I believe you're greatly deceived. I delight to do your will, O my Elohim. Your law is written within my heart. Wow. David got it. He really did. May we get it, and may we understand that the matters and the process of judgment in the house of Elohim is required, but please, can we be the trusted stewards, overseers, to do this in the way that it is screaming the application of it, that we don't enter into spiritual council culture and use the Torah to bring death. Let us apply Torah in a way that brings life and raises people, that they may be able to digest the meat and that it may be pleasing in His sight. Amen?
So, this is why I started this off this morning. Was it appears that Curtis went and got a thumbnail off of Google somewhere at the 1432 mark. This cancel culture is a double CC. It's a hidden number 33. The Masons are doing this on purpose. I'm not at all saying that Curtis is a Mason, because I'm not seeing him using the Freemason hand signs. I don't see him having globe earth programming, the other things that I see within the charismatic movement, I don't see with Curtis. So, this CC thing has this attached to it. Okay? Whenever in the past, Curtis will recognize that Michael has spoken about the Stoicheon, or the Stoicheon, being the elemental magicians, the magic, the elemental forces. That's what this is. This is actually a symbol that says these people are Freemasons. The 4 different cardinal directions are equated to the square and compass. This is a compass inside of a circle, northeast, southwest, that kind of a compass. It's also an X within a circle. If we go over here and put X in a circle, it brings up the Chi-Rho. The Chi-Rho that came from Constantine in 312, that comes through the Babylonian faith, not the Hebraic faith. We've got a video about that, and how this symbol is star worship, and how that symbol is also connected to the Templars. Being is that these guys are Masons, they are using semiotic symbolism to be able to speak. A circle with an X inside, often seen in spiritual context, generally symbolizes the part of fortune in astrology, representing a point or potential luck and personal fulfillment within one's life path, where the circle signifies wholeness and the X marks a significant intersection or crossing point. The quartered circle, also known as the circled cross, and how it means just about everything. Fortune's wheelhouse. This is all occult meanings, you guys, that are directly connected to that symbol. We're not allowed to do divination. This is a symbol known as for divination. From inside Deuteronomy 18:10 through 12, where it says we're not allowed to divine. The people who are using this symbol, well, I'm not claiming that Curtis is using it. It is the creator creation, 4 aspects, 4 different cardinal points, right, that were on that logo. On this website, hiddensignificance.com, see those 7 rays of light coming out? That's the Great White Brotherhood of Light Ascended Masters. That's the reason that Lucifer, the Statue of Liberty, has 7 rays of light, is because there's hidden significance inside what's going on. So, the circle within an X, a spiritual symbol with deeper meanings. These people are all using Kabbalistic magic to be able to mind control programming on people. Okay? The operator symbol, is a way for a person to become possessed. It's a symbol of death. It calls centuries ago that whoever had tapped that symbol will be put to death by the mystical creature called Slender Man. Okay, so I came over to Google and I put in cancel culture. And look at how many circles and how many X's there are inside the images. See all those pointing hands? We're going to cover that in a minute. Yep, something happened. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. Freemason fist of rebellion that Trump came up with after being shot in the ear. Instantly, the actor was given the world stage. You guys see over in the bottom left-hand corner, the man with the inside the circle, it's a pentagram. These people speak in signs and symbols. Let me show you. Well, actually, let's go back to Curtis's thing so that you guys can see what he's talking about on either side of the cancel culture snippet, so that you guys don't think that I'm calling out Curtis, because later we're going to use Curtis as the teaching for understanding, not judging people. So, in the place that this is at,
generally just them out there. But a modern way that this has come about in modern society, and we're all getting used to this, is this thing called cancel culture. Has anybody heard of cancel culture? Yeah, we're seeing it. Okay. So in Isaiah, the great prophet Isaiah in 5:20-21 here says, "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light, light for darkness, for bitter for sweet, and sweet for bitter. Woe to those who are wise in their own eyes, shrewd in their own sight." From a believer's context, this is really interesting, because if we become wise in our own right, shrewd in our own sight, we can actually bypass the judgment process and start misapplying this to one another and to each other in the house. And so the reason why I raise this is because we can actually get caught up in this, and we think of this as, generally just them out there. But a modern way that this has come about in modern society, and we're all getting used to this, is this thing called cancel culture. Has anybody heard of cancel culture? Yeah, we're seeing it all around right now, and seeing how a modern world is behaving with this. Now, what's interesting about this, effectively what we're seeing is they don't have the wisdom or the application of the biblical faith. So you're seeing a modern society essentially go into a place of kreno instantly. And so they're doing this. And so you're seeing this now play out in this modern council. I've got cancel culture, needs to be canceled. So we've got to assess what's going on, because this is a modern social cancer that is going on. And it's all stemming from heading to a place of judgment instantly. And what Paul's going to address with the Corinthians is, do not do this. Understand how this process works. And if you learn this, then it will bring about good fruit. It'll bring about the actual tree of life. Cancel culture is this contemporary phrase used to refer to culture in which those who are deemed to have acted or spoken in an unacceptable manner are ostracized, boycotted, or shunned. Cancel culture can often be defined as a campaign of public shaming. So this is often done in a public way, especially with social media and things like that nowadays, often conducted via the media, the news, or in-person confrontation. It's essentially rooted in pride, hurt, bitterness, unforgiveness. This is where people go to Crino instantly, because they've not dealt with matters of the heart, and it's often expressed in hate and anger. So they're now entering into a place of judgment, passing sentence upon another person. It could be their political ideologies, their gender ideologies, whatever it might be, that they're doing it. But you're seeing this occur in society, and what it does is it creates discord and instant division. And you're seeing this all play out now, because they actually do not have the wisdom of Elohim. They're not dealing with the renewing of the mind, certainly not the heart circumcision, and they don't understand how the judgment process was actually to work. And so because of that, we're just seeing the fruit of this play out in a big way. And it's why I want to particularly speak about this when we are, using Paul's journey as a way to look at these different subject matters. So because of this pride, this hurt, this bitterness, unforgiveness, we're hitting into this hate and anger place based on instantly going to a place of judgment, or in the Greek is reflected as krino. The subject of the cancellation can often suffer devastating personal consequences and disproportionate to the subject offense. In other words, somebody is experiencing something. Often now, people didn't even mean to do or upset somebody, and it's causing all of this division and whatnot. You're not even getting an opportunity to essentially plead your case because of the cancel culture. You're immediately being judged in a way that's passing sentence upon you and brings in the cancel culture. This is essentially emotionally arrested development. And I speak about this throughout many of the teachings and things like that, where people from their pride and hurt and bitterness and unforgiveness place essentially do not grow. They stay children. And so
Okay, so Curtis said that we don't want to remain children by not knowing stuff, right? So this right here is equivalent to Delta Omicron, the Illuminati. The person who made that thumbnail, who has the double CCs, has the Illuminati logo. Curtis didn't make that, I don't believe. I haven't seen him do other stuff that would make me think he was doing that. Okay, I'm going to do this out of order again. In an inconvenient religion, from Babylon to today, Alexandra shows this symbol.
But Baal never showed up. When Elijah called on God, he sent down fire and consumed the sacrifice, proving he was God. This is an artifact unearthed in a pagan temple.
See that X inside of an O?
In the Canaanite city of Hazor in northern Israel that dates to 1400 years before Jesus Christ. It is described as a basalt offering table, pillar-shaped, with a carved symbol of a circle with a cross in the center that represented the storm god Baal. Now let's look at a Freemasonic tracing board. There are always two pillars with a metaphysical third representing deity, or the great architect of the universe. This looks suspiciously similar to the two pillars in the stone with the sun wheel representing their deity at the top. Baal was identified with Saturn in ancient Rome. The cultural exchange between Rome and Carthage in Phoenicia may have influenced the development of the festival of Saturnalia. According to the World History Encyclopedia,
With the timing of Saturnalia in late December and some of the key characteristics of the festival, it isn't surprising that it had an influence on the Christian celebration of Christmas. The influence of Saturnalia on Christmas was direct and includes the decoration of the homes with garlands and lights, general merrymaking, feasting, and gift-giving. The colours of red and green, now associated with Christmas, were formerly associated with Sol Invictus and Saturn. Red symbolising the life force and green the spirit of renewal. Silver and gold were associated with ops and feminine divine energy, before all of these colours were brought into Christian worship. Saturnalia was so popular among the Romans that the early church could not stamp it out, and so made it part of the Christian calendar, with Christ replacing Saturn and Sol Invictus in the celebrations, and in time a Merry Christmas greeting taking the place of the ancient Io Saturnalia.
Just remember, this has to do with the pagans, not the Hebrews.
It wasn't until the 4th century when Pope Julius I declared December 25th Jesus' birthday, even though it's not in the Bible.
But in the 4th century, a pope declared December 25th to be the official birthday of Jesus. Why that day? Well, Christianity was newly legal in the Roman Empire, and the clever pope figured it would be smart if the biggest Christian festival coincided with the biggest pagan one, winter solstice.
Symbolizes the awaiting birth of the, quote, sun god. You can find this imagery in all sorts of pagan and false idol worship. This symbolic duo is not only representative of false deities, but also present in pagan cultural beliefs, such as the rebirth of the sun every winter on the winter solstice. Now let's talk about Baal or Baal. Many of you have heard of Baal, the ancient deity worshipped in many Middle Eastern communities, especially among the Canaanite or Phoenicians. But Baal has a number of combination names, and some of those include Apollo, Zeus, Marduk, Ahura Mazda, Osiris, Tammuz, Dagon, Prometheus, Jupiter, Nimrod, Mithra, Ra, Lucetius, and Dyaus. The Semitic word Baal, meaning Lord, was also used to refer to various deities of the Levant. Baal is also referred to as the false god. Some more aliases for Baal include the sun god, the storm god, Beelzebub, the god of fertility, the lord of destruction, and the lord of flies. God is not Baal. 1 Kings 18:20-40 describes in fascinating detail how Elijah set up a contest to see which god was real. The 450 priests of Baal spent hours begging Baal to consume the sacrifice, but Baal never showed up. When Elijah called on God, he sent down fire and consumed the sacrifice, proving he was God. This is an artifact unearthed in a pagan temple in the Canaanite city of Hazor in northern Israel that dates to 1400 years before Jesus Christ. It is described as a basalt offering table, pillar-shaped with a carved symbol of a circle with a cross in the center that represented the storm god Baal. Now let's look at a Freemasonic tracing board. There are always two pillars with a metaphysical third representing deity. Represented the storm god Baal. Now let's look at a Freemasonic tracing board. There are always...
See that eye at the top?
Now let's look at a Freemasonic tracing board. Offering table, pillar-shaped with a carved symbol of a circle with a cross in the center that represented the storm god Baal. Now let's look at a Freemasonic tracing board. There are always two pillars with a metaphysical third representing
the Illuminati, the eye within the triangle with the rays of light for the Great White Brotherhood of Light, the Ascended Masters, the Fallen Angel cult, and everybody just fell for Delta Omicron. Okay, so this is Bill Johnson Teachings Official. how to honor people you don't agree with. Okay, this video today is don't judge me, right? We're going to get back to Curtis's teaching the don't judge me video. But this is Bill Johnson's. As soon as I was watching Curtis's thing, I went and put in Bethel don't judge me, and this is one of the videos that pops up. So how to honor people you don't agree with sure does seamlessly line up with the Freemasons' honor system. Unity in honor. See how these are understanding the degrees? During Bill Johnson's talk, he's going to talk about the 180 degrees. He's going to talk about the first level, the second level, and on the third level you have Christ, because Christ is Christ consciousness at the third degree of Freemasonry. It's not Yeshua HaMashiach. Tradition of honor and brotherhood. All of these people are Luciferians. That's what the Freemasons are. That's what Bill Johnson is. The reason he's using the honor system. So they have all this stuff that's directly connected to honors and honor and that type of thing. That's what their whole cult is based on, is the doctrine of the fallen angels. Okay? And they all had honor towards each other, not to break their oath that they were going to stay in one group trying to fight against Yah Elohim of the Bible. That's their honor system. Okay, so his video is only 4 minutes long. Just prior to this little thing that he's got going here, he did a 666 right before that at the beginning of the video. The Freemasons do this pointing hand thing. When a Mason points at their head, it means that they're more all-knowing. They know the Luciferian doctrine. When they're pointing at their head, they're saying, I know the Luciferian doctrine, and I'm more all-knowing than the general public. This two-finger thing, we're going to look at that in a second. This thing right here. The interlacing fingers. The pointing again. That infinity hourglass, they use that in Freemasonry all the time. It's a stage prop, but it's also part of their teachings. This thing where he's got his thumb inside his index finger, that's another one of the Freemason hand signs. Thing. This, okay? Now, see how he's got his hand right there where his ring finger and his middle finger are together, and it kind of looks like a West Coast W type of thing. If you come over here to the playlist, go to Freemason hand signs in the church. There's 17 videos that will explain all the hand signs that Bill Johnson was just doing. Okay. Had somebody show up and I needed to talk for a minute and get some stuff lined up, so I am a little out of place. We were talking about Bill Johnson. This was the end of his video. Oh, I'm going to slow this down to a slow speed so that you can hear how they leave out of this video, and then we're going to go back and watch the video.
They're praying against them. Yeah, because they throw in these little barbs, that spirit of deception that keeps them from, stay away from that. Yeah, totally. Just getting stupid, so. Backhanded. Yeah. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. God protects those we accuse.
God protects those who we accuse. Really? Ephesians 5:11, have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. So let's rewind Dan and Bill, put them back onto normal speed. Actually, let's speed it up so that we don't have to listen to them for as long. And take off closed captioning so we can watch Bill's hand signs. And as he makes the hand signs, listen to the words prior to the hand sign and after the hand sign.
Despite disagreeing with leaders, how do you pray for them from hope and see them as God sees them?
Bill is not God. He cannot see them as God sees them.
I don't know if they're talking about church leaders, governmental leaders. I suppose,
Let's just take those then.
there's similarity in both worlds. Yeah. In church leaders, you have occasion to get to know someone, where I don't have the occasion to know my president or my governor. When you have occasion to know someone, my dad used to put it this way, he says, when you wash somebody's feet, you find out why they walk the way they do. It's a brilliant statement. Then when you humble yourself.
Bill's dad, Earl, oversaw Scott and Darren Grubb's funeral, and when I met Earl, this man was not around that I saw. He didn't lead Scott and Darren's funeral, but this Freemasonic Luciferian caused Scott and Darren's funeral.
To serve somebody, you discover, oh, that's why they walk this way. It's because they've got this here, and there's something about just serving people, honoring them for who they are. Every person is made in God's image, so everyone deserves honor in that level. Everyone has giftings from God, so everyone deserves honor on that second level. Some are walking in real Christ-likeness, so there's other levels and layers of honor. But
okay, so he just said there's that level, and the third level was being like Christ. That's Christ consciousness for the 3 degrees of Freemasonry that are the first 3 degrees called the blue light degrees.
At minimum, we just recognize the
He was just pointing at his head with 2 fingers.
grace that's on their life, and you internally celebrate it. You can't look at, I can't look at a person that I disagree with through the lens of my opinion, because then they're always going to be wrong, and I'll always be right. Look at them through the lens of this is how God made them. I may never agree with that person that. Let me pick a sensitive one. I don't agree with the person promoting abortion at all, but it's important that I understand what they value. I may never agree with them, but they value. You can't look at, I can't look at a person that I disagree with through the lens of my opinion, because then they're always going to be wrong, and I'll always be right. If I look at them through the lens of this is how God made them, I may never agree with that person that. Let me pick a sensitive one. I don't agree with the person promoting abortion at all, but it's important that I understand what they value. I may never agree with them, but they value the individual rights of a woman. Well, there's a cry there that needs to be heard without the agreement to killing the child, if that makes sense.
So they're trying to protect something that's valuable to them.
There is something of value, and I may never agree with them, but if I'm going to value them as a person, I have to take the time to try to understand what makes them tick. What are they?
That thing right there where he's got his fist on his chin, I need to figure out how they think and how they tick. That's another Freemason hand sign. He's telling you, using his words, that he's a Mason. He's showing his hand signs that he is a Mason. Isaiah 8:20, to the law and the testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach. If a man doesn't come speaking according to these words, there's no truth in him. Right? And Scripture tells us that the bad guys speak with their hands and they teach with their feet.
What are they trying to protect? What is it? What is it that is of value to them? And it may be 180 degrees different in opinion, a difference from the way I see the world. But if I'm going to communicate well to people, or if I'm going to befriend them, at least I can take the time to try to understand. So.
Right there, where he says he needs to take the time to understand. That again, all of these things are Freemason hand signs. Every single thing he's doing is nothing to do with Yeshua HaMashiach. He's talking about understanding people that have abortions. That's not his job. His job is to read the Scriptures out loud. Peter told us that when you come into the faith of Yeshua HaMashiach, that we are to abstain from doing things that are idolatrous, and that on the Sabbath, each Sabbath Saturday, we will hear Moses being read out loud to the congregation, to the law and the testimony. So to the front of the Bible and the back of the Bible, if a man is not speaking according to these words, there is no truth in him. This man is telling you we are to have a system of honor, but that system of honor is a Luciferian doctrine that's directly connected to Bill Johnson's Freemason cult.
I think it's an important part of, like, if we're praying for leaders, I'm going to assume that because this is in a church setting, that they're talking about maybe spiritual leaders that they just don't agree with. Everyone deserves honor and love in person.
Bill Johnson is not a spiritual leader. He is a Luciferian leader. There is only Yeshua HaMashiach. The only thing, the Ruach is to be the only one who's leading us. And he's to be convicting us of sin. We're to know that sin is a transgression of the law of Torah. The law of Torah is to be written on our hearts, not hearts of stone, but hearts of flesh. This man is speaking Luciferian doctrine.
Support. Just don't pray for them through your need to be right. Just be a servant and pray. I mean, there's a lot of ways to pray without saying, "Oh God, show them I'm right."
But we're not supposed to pray.
It's manipulation. Yeah.
It's manipulation to pray, "Oh God, pray that they know that I'm right." It's manipulation. Everything Bill Johnson is doing is manipulation. There is no scripture.
Not just to be able to pray, or just really give them clarity of their heart and their mind for the task you've given them to do. Give them favor all the way around, all around them, so that they always have the support and the team around them that they need to fulfill their purpose. And there's a lot of ways like that to pray for people that without throwing in little barbs. I hear some people, they think they're praying for people. They're not. They're praying against them because they throw in these little barbs. That spirit.
Praying for them instead of praying against them. Again, how to honor people you don't agree with, right? Which is a lie from the pit of hell. Connects directly to this. Come over here to Masonic hand signs and gestures. And the things that Bill Johnson was doing are inside this list, plus a lot of other stuff that was not in that list, but that's still what Bill was doing just now. Bill Johnson's cult is practicing the same magic as Aleister Crowley.
And there is actually very soon available a t-shirt with something very similar to this design, and it'll act as a reminder, perhaps. So that's one way you can remind yourself, but there are others. Now, the first of these is the Apex. Now, if you think of Scholar's Cradle, you probably think of the Apex Cradle. This is the archetypal one, which is why it's being used on this design of t-shirt, also quite soon available. But this is not just a commercial for t-shirts. Now, this... Yes, it's called the Apex for a reason, partly the shape, but also it's the one perhaps you should be striving for. If you can carry this off in your lecturing career, then well done you. But it's really, and this is the main thing I'm going to say about it, it's really not for beginners. There are many...
This is not for beginners. This man is knighting people in a ceremony for the graduation of School of Supernatural Ministry. That's a 32nd degree ritual. Bill Johnson is a highly ranking Luciferian.
Scholar's Cradles you can pick from, and you don't need to know many at all. If you have 2 or 3 really solid Scholar's Cradles and you can use them really well, that's enough to start with. You don't have to go for the Apex that a lot of people will say, show me this one, how do you do this one? Okay, right, well. About the shape of it, it's fingertips. Don't press in, don't use the joints of your fingers, for goodness sake, don't go clasp your hands together. This is praying, and this is an Apex Cradle. So it's just fingertips. There are 2 main ways of doing it. There's a straight-fingered Apex Cradle, and you can also...
the Freemason praying hands. Prayer and Masonry. At the end of Bill's conversation, they're talking. Actually, this whole conversation with Dan Muller, I think, is all about prayer, and they're praying for government officials and their leaders, etc. Remember that pointing finger, it'll be explained later.
Doing it. There's a straight-fingered apex cradle, and you can also you can form a constant arch with your fingers curving like this, so you end up with something like a ball. A danger is that people pulse between the two. Don't do this. There are various pulses that I'll be talking about that the various cradles can make use of, but this is bad. If you pulse like this, you've got some weird creature that will distract people. People in the audience will be just looking at this weird pulsing thing, and they won't be listening to what you're saying. And largely the point of the scholar's cradle, okay, yes, it may make you look more scholarly, and maybe that's what you want, to win friends and influence people, but actually you are trying to get across information to your audience. You want your audience to be listening at all the important points and to get the meaning of what you're saying. So if you distract them with pulsing like this, that's not doing the job. The apex cradle has to be established. Think of it like a cathedral. So these are the various fluting columns that come together in the great vault at the roof of the cathedral. And you may know this about cathedrals. They're very big and heavy and don't move much. Okay, so you establish where your cathedral is and leave it there. A lot of people will do is they will move around it. So if they want to say something like, well, you might think that, but it turns out that that's not actually true. You see, I left the apex cradle where it was, and I moved my head around it and back. That might be an alien way of moving for you, so maybe that's one of the reasons you shouldn't be starting with the apex cradle. And of course, it wins the stability of this if you turn with it. If you turn with your apex cradle, the power of it is lost. If you do need to turn, I would advise, say, drop into a front cage, something like this, and then turn with that, answer that person's question, and then...
It's not just going on with Bill Johnson. This is Bodhi Baucham doing it, and all the Founders Ministry logos are Freemasonic logos. This is the Cult of the Dead, Stephen Furtick, his family. It's all explained inside the Code Orange Revival, how all of these X's are the Cult of Osiris, and all the leaders of the New Apostolic Reformation are Freemasonic Luciferians. Here's Francis Chan with a bunch of Catholics doing his interlacing fingers. Here's Paula White's Without Walls, and their logo is interlocking fingers. All the Templar militia. This is Paula White's Octagon Church. Bethel's Alabaster Prayer House is their Freemason Lodge. This building is designed the same as a Freemason Lodge, the pillars being on the outside instead of the inside. This is a post that was put up by Worship U, which is Brian Johnson. Bill Johnson doing his interlacing fingers, and it says, music bypasses all the intellectual barriers, and when the anointing of God is on a song, people will begin to believe things they wouldn't believe through. Bill Johnson made that quote. Brian Johnson reposted that quote on Worship U. And that's interesting. So 5 plus 1 equals 6. I had strange timing getting that 666. But these are interlacing fingers from Freemasonry. You guys remember how T.D. Jakes is getting popped right now with Puff Daddy? That's T.D. Jakes doing his interlocking fingers. That's the Pope doing his interlocking fingers.
Re-establish your apex cradle again. One of the many reasons I don't like the apex cradle is that it can make you look like a pretentious twonk. You know, if you're sitting there like this as your audience comes in and finds its seats, you better come up with something pretty good, because this is a sort of, hey everyone, I've got an amazing lecture for you and I really know my stuff sort of pose, and you better establish that you are a bit ace in the first minute of your lecture. Otherwise you're going to start to look a bit of a fake if you've started off with an apex cradle. But you might, towards the end of a lecture, think, okay, I'm just going to use it once, just towards the end, when I talk about all the various work we've done and how it all came together and how the results of our experiments were eventually a success, and this is how we were able to establish this thing that I've been talking to you about.
You find out why they walk the way they do. It's a brilliant statement that when you humble yourself to serve somebody, you discover, oh, that's why they walk this way. It's because they've got this here, and there's something about just serving people, honoring them for who they are. Every person is made in God's image, so everyone deserves honor in that level. Everyone has giftings from God, so everyone deserves honor on that second level. Some are walking in real Christ-likeness, so there's other levels and layers of honor. But at minimum, we just recognize the grace that's on their life, and you internally celebrate it. You can't look at I can't look at a person that I disagree with through the lens of my opinion, because then they're always going to be wrong, and I'll always be right. If I look at them through the lens of this is how God. I may never agree with that person that...
This is how God made them. Then he went into his apex cradle.
Right. If I look at them through the lens of this is how God made them, I may never agree with that person that... let me pick a... It's important that I understand what they value.
It's important to know what Bill values. He values how to honor people you don't agree with, not love and correction.
Cancellation can often suffer devastating personal consequences and disproportionate to the subject offense. In other words, somebody is experiencing something often now people didn't even mean to do or upset somebody. And
so is Bill Johnson just accidentally doing the hand signs? If you come over here to the playlists, there are 20 videos inside the playlist that's called Bethel Freemason Habits. This is Bethel's Templar Alabaster Prayer House. Chevron Church logos hidden number 33. Freemason hand signs in the church. How Bethel and Puff Daddy sex cults connect together. Hypnotism in the church. Kabbalah being taught at Bethel. Chris Valentin exposed 18 different videos, folks. These are all explaining how these guys are Freemasonic Luciferians. The Pedophile Pastors Club. That's all the same group. Sundial Bridge is Baphomet worship. This is all Freemasonry. Saint Germain is Lucifer, the esoteric god of Freemasonry and the New Age movement. He's also the guy giving Bethel the Angel Investment Network from Mount Shasta. Saint Germain's the one giving Bethel free money to steal Redding, California. Symbols explained. Bethel's Baphomet worship. Bethel's Pyramid in the Octagon, Freemason Temple. Bill Johnson's hand signs are the same as William Branham's hand signs, and those are the most excellent master's degree hand signs. The cults are following Count Zinzendorf's mustard seed Freemasonry. Bill Johnson is a Freemasonic Luciferian. The New Apostolic Reformation. That one's Jeremy Riddle.
I was watching a commercial, they were doing some fundraising, and they kept making this symbol with their hands. And there was a Freemasonry site that I was looking at. I thought, this is really curious. It really looks contrived, and they're doing it in every video. And then they showed a clip of Lester Sumrall preaching before he died, and he kept making this symbol. And you see this symbol. News anchors love to make this symbol. You see them doing a lot. I don't know what the name is for it. I think they're making the Illuminati all-seeing eye pyramid, like on the dollar bill with the all-seeing eye. But sure enough, my suspicions were proven correct. I was never raised in Freemasonry, thank God. But it is a Illuminati symbol. And then people that I liked start making it. So I wonder how many of our people that we like have been corrupted. I see, I like Perry Stone. Perry Stone makes it. I see Joseph, a lot of people like Joseph Prince. I see Joseph Prince, he's a hand sign making machine. If you watch him, he's going on and on and on. He'll make the devil's sign. Of course, you've all seen the famous ones of Copeland and Ben Hinn making the devil's sign. He'll make the 666. 666. John Hagee does the same thing, and his son, they're doing the same thing, making the hand signs. I think a lot of these leaders have been corrupted and are leading us to the Antichrist. That's why you have to be careful who you listen to. Jesus said, my sheep know my voice, and another voice they will not follow. So be very careful. Start to seek him in these last. Back to Trump, again, more signs and symbols. Anybody that says Trump is not a Mason, they're completely deceived, they're completely blind, they're completely in denial. And of course, with Trump being a Freemason, you're going to have Freemasons working alongside with you. As you can see right here, with this one individual, with again the square and the compass all in plain sight. And this is something I covered several years ago with Donald Trump. In the 11 statues scattered throughout the U.S. in these major cities such as San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, and so forth, with these statues, and people were talking about, how they look and how ridiculous they made Donald Trump look, but one thing people missed was the Masonic ring that Donald Trump was wearing. He wasn't wearing anything. The one thing he was wearing was that Masonic ring. And again, this was, of course, pulled out by those pulling the strings from behind the scenes. And just more signs and symbols, all in plain sight.
else I just noticed? For without walls, the A is a chevron. It's another hidden number 33, you guys. Let's see, how many are there? There's one A here, there's one A here, and there's one A here. 3 chevrons equal the hidden number 666 in this Freemasonic system of magic. Cheryl Broderson, daughter of Calvary Chapel's Chuck Smith. What happened to the paperwork from your husband being fired by Chuck before he passed away? We know that you guys don't have control of Calvary Chapel. Lucifer does. So these videos all explain how Bethel is practicing Freemason habits, rituals, and teachings.
All right, Shabbat Shalom to everyone, wherever you are in the world. It's just so great to see everyone. A blessing as always to gather with the house and for us to be together as we go through this journey. Looking back at people that have much to teach us. For those joining us via video, you can, if you want to join us live, just go to the rivershabbat.com website. And if you scroll down on that homepage, you'll see Welcome to the River. Click subscribe. And then you just put in your first and last name and email address, and that puts you on the community newsletter, and that contains the live link to the upcoming Shabbat gathering. And if you've never joined us live, we'd love to have you. And come and meet some of the family and the wider community. They're a great bunch. All right. We are continuing our journey, and we're looking at a number of things as we do this journey. I'm using the backdrop of this is the Corinthians, almost 2,000 years ago, because we are the modern day Corinthians, whether we know it or not. Who here knows that you are the modern day Corinthians? Hands up. Yeah. We often don't think of it that way. We often read the word third party, don't we? And it's natural to do so. So it's very natural to read, well, that's them and this is us. But really what we're seeing is these great examples, these the struggles, the overcoming, the instructions. He was dealing with this whole great plan of redemption in concerning the house. And this goes right from Bereshit to Genesis, right from what happened in the garden, right through to the coming of Messiah, and all the great promises and the fulfillment of the plan of redemption contained in the book of Revelation. And so everything in between, it has matter, has meaning, because this is all a part of our test in the time domain. And one of the things that Paul, the Apostle Paul, is dealing with here, and nothing new under the sun, we have a modern expression of all of these things, but essentially we are dealing with the human condition. And one of the things that he's going to be dealing with is, of course, there's discord in the house. And with the discord, can come arguments, division, and all of these kinds of things as people are started learning to understand, not just the faith itself, as it relates in what was given to us in the wilderness at Sinai, but also how do we apply it? To have knowledge without application it's tantamount to us not being able to. It's like eating with no nutrients. It can't perform beyond the immediate function. And a lot of what happens with knowledge as we gain knowledge is that we don't actually have the renewing of the mind and the heart circumcision, so we don't apply knowledge. And when we don't apply knowledge to the faith, we then just have knowledge of the faith. And this happens to so many on this faith journey, where we get caught up in trying to know more instead of becoming who he'd have us be. And of course, Paul, the Apostle Paul and the servants with him, with Silas and Timothy, and what they're dealing with the Corinthians as a part of Paul's second journey is how do we bring application after this journey? And so Paul's writing the letters to try and go, okay, now that you've been given an understanding and some of the knowledge of the mysteries and things like that. And so we've been working through, the servant's journey. Was he dealing with milk or meat, and all these conversations that go on as a part of that. As a part of today, we're going to look at something that affects all of us, and a very important matter for any of us that are on this journey. I've got here judging others. Judging someone often defines more about your character than the character of the person you are judging. And so what we often find is people will project. Sometimes they can even gaslight, they can do that, but they enter into a place of judgment upon someone else. And we can do this instantly in our heart, in seconds. Anybody notice that? You just immediately just go to somewhere in your heart and that's it, bang. And this is why we're not to be trusted yet with sitting on the throne, because we'd all be spending eternity alone. Because that would be the state of our heart.
I didn't just come up with, bang, Bethel is Freemasons. This is near 15,000 hours of research into the Freemasonic habits of Bethel Church. That's what YouTube Exposing Bethel is showing the Freemasonic Luciferian habits that have snuck into Bethel Church and the New Apostolic Reformation.
Because if we had Elohim's power of final judgment, or in the Greek, krino, which we'll talk about today, we would end up vaporizing each other before we actually work this out. And so we would have a very lonely existence. And so the Father in his infinite wisdom and the time domain and testing is making us work through certain matters we're going to talk about today. And Paul does an incredible job of demonstrating how this is to work amongst the house and how we are to apply this and to deal with each other. And there's some very interesting things we're dealing with here. Last week we looked at the spiritual immunity. So we've not had a good foundation to our faith, especially a lot of us here in the West. And so a lot of us are just raised on a modern Western form of Christianity or whatever it is. And although there are great truths contained in that, certainly the application of them have been all over the place. And so we've been essentially the proverbial children trying to eat meat and throwing up all over the place and everything else and making a mess of things because we weren't properly breastfed with the milk of Torah. And of course, within the milk of Torah and contained in that, of course, is really the hidden meat. And we talked about, the reality that the milk allows for us to actually understand the hidden meat and to chew it properly, essentially to apply it. So if all we're going to do is stay in the milk of it and tick the religious boxes from a Torah perspective, we can often make a foul odor after a while because, that's what it does when you eat too much dairy products. And then we wonder what's going on. At the same time, again, on the Christian side, I don't need the milk, and we try to eat something that we're not capable of digesting. And then that plays out in a certain ways. And I call this, in the water community here, we refer to these as the river banks. And the idea is to get in to understand. We always see in the Western mindset, been there, done that, this versus that. But actually in Hebraic thinking and the way God develops is he builds upon it to understand. So we shouldn't be surprised that within the milk of Torah contains the application of the hidden meat. And so we want to get to that place. And so we spoke about that last week. A brother has reached out, and Brother Sean, and from the other side of the ditch, and he has created, I talk about this concept of picking shadow fruit. And I talk about that in the teaching. Well, he did a drawing based on this and sent it to me, and a very talented brother, and he sent this through. And I wanted to reference this because this whole journey of things is that we can, if we stay only in the milk of Torah, we'll end up actually trying to pick shadow fruit. And it doesn't make sense. It can't sustain us. It doesn't give us the nutrients, these things like this. So this is another example or a way that Scripture gives us to understand this process. And often those who are simply ticking Torah boxes, let's say, are trying to do that in their faith, whether it be our brethren in Yehuda or it be people that are caught up in certain movements and Messianic Hebrew roots movements, they can get caught up in this process. And there is a lot of beauty in the process in the sense of, community or acceptance or things like that. But ultimately, everyone realizes here that trying to eat shadow fruit is not going to give us the nutrients we need. But the thing that I point out here is that darkness cannot cast a shadow. The reason why there is a shadow is because there's light shining on the tree of life. And what it is about getting our brethren to go, hey, turn to the actual tree. Turn to the tree of life and eat of the tree of life. Not just the shadows that teach us that it's there, that let us understand that the light is there. We need to actually apply and partake in this. And of course, the early Corinthians were struggling in many ways from both sides of the river. And so when Sean sent this through, I wanted to raise this because it was quite topical in our journey in here. Because in the Church of Corinth, there are some that are not caring at all about that there is a tree and that when the light shines on it, it will cast a shadow. And then there are others that are purely trying to pick shadow fruit, which of course is going to cause someone to eventually starve. In Hebrews 10:1, it's like this: for since the law has but a shadow of good things to come, instead of the true form of these realities, which is the actual tree, and that's why I'm showing this image. Essentially, what's being stated here in the book of Hebrews is just the picture you saw. The reality is actually the tree and the light shining on that tree that is casting the shadow. It can never be the same sacrifices that are continually offered every year to make perfect for those who draw near. Of course, he's referring to the temple system, and every year the high priest would come in and atone or do the sacrifices, what we call Yom Kippurim, and the high priest would enter once a year into the Holy of Holies and do this sacrifice on behalf of the nation of Israel, which is a people, not a piece of dirt. And so for the people, he would do this. Well, what Paul's doing is he's referring to the practices here in Hebrews of what the people knew and understood. He says, otherwise they would not have ceased to be offered, since the worshippers, having once been cleansed, would no longer have any consciousness of sins. But in these sacrifices, there's a reminder of sins every year. So in other words, the reason for the shadow, the reason for these practices, the reason why they were told and instructed to do have a dress rehearsal of the fall Moedim was for the remembrance of these things, to understand these things, because in honoring those fallen Moedim, they were seeing a high priest do this on behalf of the house of Israel. However, he makes the point, for it is impossible, though, for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sins. It can remind us these practices that they were doing as a house was teaching them that there was a need for the remission of sin, for blood to be spilled of innocence. And so it was teaching them of the Messiah to come. And so there was this whole process as a house, and this is why Yeshua held them to account. You should have known, the religious leaders should have known, that all of this was a dress rehearsal pointing to him. And they were going to reject him. So the blood of Messiah and him as the high priest, and this is what Paul started to understand as a Pharisee, now allows for this whole judgment process. And it's important because this is a process. It was a process in the shadow picture leading up to all of these things. And he goes on to break this down, particularly with the Corinthians, and this is often missed. So we looked at the servant's journey, the milk and the meat, and now we're going to look at this whole thing of judging others. Because if we are under a judgment of a great Elohim and our great Messiah, our King, our bridegroom, all these things, there is judgment that is indeed for all of us. Well, we have to work a process through while we're in the time domain, while we're in the test. And when we don't know this, we don't actually see perhaps sometimes what we're actually reading. And what is captured with what Paul is trying to deal with the Corinthians is actually quite incredible. He is teaching the application of actually the fruit, the faith. He's taking it from shadow and he's taking it into a place where you're going to learn to apply and understand this so that you can work through this process of judgment in the time domain, because indeed we are all going to receive judgment, but we also are all going to give it. And there's like a trial run during the test and things like this. And he's applying a breakdown of this process because essentially the blood of Messiah allows it for all of our lives. Okay. So Isaiah, the great prophet Isaiah 5:20-21, he says, woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light, light for darkness, for bitter for sweet, sweet for bitter. Woe to those who are wise in their own eyes, shrewd in their own sight. From a believer's context, this is really interesting, because if we become wise in our own right, shrewd in our own sight, we can actually bypass the judgment process.
Okay. Woe to those who call good evil and put darkness for light and light for darkness. Okay? Now remember, behold, I saw Satan fall from heaven like a bolt of lightning, right? Lucifer is the light bringer. So we're not supposed to put Lucifer's teachings in place of the teachings of Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay. One second, let me try and remember this verse. Satan disguises himself as a worker of light, or an angel of light, and his followers disguise themselves as workers of righteousness. The Freemasons claim to all be righteous. Bill's righteous, Chris Valentin's righteous, but they're lying to you in the name of Yah Elohim while they're stealing, killing. There's a drug cartel inside of Bethel. They're teaching the Kabbalah, the doctrine of the fallen angels. They're doing all the things that Scripture says not to do. That's what Bethel is teaching you to do.
Are misapplying this to one another and to each other in the house. And so the reason why I raise this is because we can actually get caught up in this, and we think that this is, generally just them out there. But a modern way that this has come about in modern society, and we all get used to this, is this thing called cancel culture. Anybody heard of cancel culture? Yeah, we're seeing it all around right now, and seeing how a modern world is behaving with this. Now, what's interesting about this, effectively what we're seeing is they don't have the wisdom or the application of the biblical faith. So you're seeing a modern society essentially go into a place of krino instantly. And so they're doing this. And so you're seeing this now play out in this modern cancel culture, needs to be canceled. So we've got to assess what's going on, because this is a modern social cancer that is going on. And it's all stemming from heading to a place of judgment instantly. And what Paul's going to address with the Corinthians is, do not do this. Understand how this process works. And if you learn this, then it will bring about good fruit. It will bring about the actual tree of life. Cancel culture is this contemporary phrase used to refer to culture in which those who are deemed to have acted or spoken in an unacceptable manner are ostracized, boycotted, or shunned. Cancel culture can often be defined as a campaign of public shaming. This is often done in a public way, especially with social media and things like that nowadays, often conducted by the media, the news, or in-person competition. It's essentially rooted in pride, hurt, bitterness, unforgiveness. This is where people go to krino instantly, because they've not dealt with matters of the heart, and it's often expressed in hate and anger. So they're now entering into a place of judgment, passing sentence upon another person. It could be their political ideologies, their gender ideologies, whatever it might be that they're doing. And you're seeing this occur in society, and what it does is it creates discord and instant division. And you're seeing this all play out now, because they actually do not have the wisdom of Elohim. They're not dealing with the renewing of the mind, certainly not the heart circumcision, and they don't understand how the judgment process was actually to work. And so
Guys, for any of you that are learning to read symbolism right now, you don't have to. He says right there, he is a goat. If you think that money is evil, well, according to Scripture, the love of money is the root of all types of evil, including the fact that you're wearing that goat hat, because we know what that means. Rick Pino is just another Baphomet worshiper. This is the men who ride goats. That's the actual ritual from inside the lodge. From Atlanta. These guys know that they're goats. For all of the money that they're making, I'm going to show you something else. This should be far more important than how much money they're making.
On large lots, and you would be able to visit this address, 11140 Looks like the Johnson family farm had another real good harvest.
So the family farm made $375,000.
So here's what I could find online about this Johnson Family Farm Incorporated. You can see the address, 11140 Sarah Drive, Redding, California. And you can also see that the agent and the chief executive officer is somebody named Brian Mark Johnson. And yes, it's Brian Johnson, Bill Johnson's son, the guy from Bethel Music. So if you were in Redding and you went to Bethel Church, it wouldn't be hard at all to just take a short drive to this nice little wooded area with nice homes on large lots, and you would be able to visit this address, 11140 Sarah Drive, and you wouldn't see a farm. What you'd see is a residence, a house. But there is something there called Goat Lord Farm. It's a place of worship. It's listed as a place of worship with this address. This is the guy. And you wouldn't see a farm. What you'd see is a residence, a house. But there is something there called Goat Lord Farm. It's a place of worship. It's listed as a place of worship with... And you wouldn't see a farm. What you'd see is a residence, a house. But there is something there called Goat Lord Farm. It's a place of worship. It's listed as a place of worship with this address. This is the guy, Brian Johnson, who's getting paid a ton of money to work at Bethel. And yet, he's got his own church in his house, apparently. I don't think it's a real church. In fact, I'm sure it's not a real church. I just don't know what it is. Luke Hendrickson says, the best goat lord you'll ever meet. Digging out...
Process works. And if you learn this, then it will bring about good fruit. It'll bring about the actual tree of life. Cancel culture is this contemporary phrase used to refer to culture in which those who are deemed to have acted or spoken in an unacceptable manner are ostracized, boycotted, or shunned. Cancel culture can often be defined as a campaign of public shaming. So this is often done in a public way, especially with social media and things like that nowadays, often conducted via the media, the news, or in-person confrontation. It's essentially rooted in pride, hurt, bitterness, unforgiveness. This is where people go to Crino instantly because they've not dealt with matters of the heart, and it's often expressed in hate and anger. So they're now entering into a place of judgment, passing sentence upon another person. It could be their political ideologies, their gender ideologies, whatever it might be that they're doing it. But you're seeing this occur in society, and what it does is it creates discord and instant division. And you're seeing this all play out now, because they actually do not have the wisdom of Elohim. They're not dealing with the renewing of the mind, certainly not the heart circumcision, and they don't understand how the judgment process was actually to work. And so because of that, we're just seeing the fruit of this play out in a big way. And it's why I want to particularly speak about this when we are, using Paul's journey as a way to look at these different subject matters. So because of this pride, this hurt, this bitterness, unforgiveness, we're hitting into this hate and anger place based on instantly going to a place of judgment, or in the Greek is reflected as krino. The subject of the cancellation can often suffer devastating personal consequences disproportionate to the subject offense. In other words, somebody is experiencing something often now people didn't even mean to do or upset somebody. And it's causing all of this division and whatnot. You're not even getting an opportunity to essentially plead your case because of the cancel culture. You're immediately being judged in a way that's passing sentence upon you and brings in the cancel culture. This is essentially emotionally arrested development. And I speak about this throughout many of the teachings and things like that, where people from their pride and hurt and bitterness and unforgiveness place essentially do not grow. They stay children. And so now they're in this cancel culture as children. You know, this is why you often hear parents, you may have heard this raising your kids, I don't love you, Mom. I don't love you, Dad. And immediately that little child has gone to a place of Crino because they might be being disciplined, corrected, reproved, whatever it might be. And their accusation against you is you don't love me. Now, some of you parents may have actually experienced that. You may have experienced this with your friends. And what that is that is a place essentially as a child of cancel culture. So what you're seeing play out and what we're seeing manifested right now with cancel culture is you're seeing essentially a very emotionally arrested and immature society. It does not.
For those of you guys that are watching, I love each and every Bethelite. I do not like the fact that they are being misled by a group of men who are intentionally trying to get them to go to the lake of fire. I love you, Bethelites. Come out of this group of Freemasonic Luciferians.
Know how to process anymore because it's essentially not developed. And so things like cancel culture are the fruit of it. You're just seeing the fruit of how sad or how sick the state of things actually are. And of course, with that, people will not take responsibility, accountability, and they certainly don't want any consequences regarding their own actions. So we're seeing this play out. It's simply a fruit. Cancel culture is a modern expression of this not being dealt with. And so Paul's actually going to deal with how do we avoid cancel culture. And so he's actually dealing with this almost 2,000 years ago. And of course, I'm using his journey with the Corinthians to actually talk about this. These people still need to be dealt with in our lives, however. This is not cancel culture when we do this. Paul's not saying that you don't deal with this. So we got to be very careful about this. It's not about accepting what somebody is doing if it is hurting others. And so what we have seen, and so in Rome, in particular with the council culture, you're seeing nothing being done about it. That is not biblical. And so we're going to see Paul is going, no, we're not going to get into cancel culture. And if we start seeing this behavior, you're going to do something about it. What are we to do with unrepentant, divisive, or toxic brothers or sisters? So we're talking about now our house, the house of Israel, because judgment or krino from Elohim occurs first in our house. So it's important that we get this. In Proverbs 12, 25, 26, it says this: anxiety in a man's heart weighs him down, but a good word makes him glad. One who is righteous is a guide to the neighbor, but the way of wicked leads him astray. So in other words, there's a process here in this great wisdom of the Proverbs where there's something here where we're going to be dealing with anxiety is going to come into it. And you'll see what's really behind cancel culture is massive depression and anxiety that is occurring in Rome. But again, this is words to the house. So what is our righteous guide? And so Paul, being a master of the Torah and the Tanakh, he was drawing upon wisdoms, much of it found, from the great words found in the book of Ecclesiastes to the Psalms to the Proverbs to indeed the Torah itself and the first 4 books. He's drawing from everything to try and bring application into a people. And so that's essentially what we're doing as a body and what we do here in River Shabbat. And so we are using the journey of Paul's second journey and then his letter following that journey to the Corinthians as a way of discussing and looking at these matters and then applying them in our life today. Because if we don't get this, that this is us, we are the modern Corinthians in this application, we can then fall in the trap of reading something third person. Who's got their Bibles? Man, we've got an onto it community here. I bet we're so onto it. Who's already read chapters 4, 5, and 6 before today? if you've done that too. Who would like to come on and teach on that? Everybody's aware of it. So I'm left as the poor one. I'm the one who's left with the judgment on the teaching. Okay. Well, we got a wise community too, developing in that. I'm just going to read through these, and then we're going to reference some of the key or certain scriptures within it when we come back and look at what we're dealing with these judging others today. Okay, starting in chapter 4. Let a man regard us as servants of Messiah and trustees of the secrets of Elohim, or the hidden matters. For the rest, it is sought in trustees, that those that should be found trustworthy, but with me it is a small matter that I should be judged by you or by a man's court, but not even myself I judge. Whoa, so now we're going to be struggling with the English. We're going to go back and revisit this after we're done reading. But notice we're just seeing judge, 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 judge. We're often seeing, sought in as trustees. What does that mean? Again, depending, I'm reading from the ISR here, depending on your English version, you're going to have different words that you might have and sought as a stewardship or whatever in there. But again, judge is one of those words like love and certain various words where, if you don't understand what they're actually doing here in the transliteration into Greek from the Hebrew, we're really going to get lost. And so modern English gives us a little bit of a struggle and a journey. And so this is one of those times where the English is really going to work against us in understanding what Paul is really saying in his letter to Corinth at this time. For I am not conscious of any matter against myself. I am not declared right by this, but he who judges me is Yeshua. So do not judge any at all before the time until the master comes. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What's that mean then? It's interesting if we don't understand what's being said here. Who shall bring light to what is hidden in the darkness or the shadows, and reveal the thoughts of the hearts? Then each one's praise shall come from Elohim. And these matter, brothers, I have applied in a figure to myself and Apollos for your sake, so that in us you might learn not to think beyond what is written, so that none of you become puffed up or prideful or wise in your own eyes, as we looked at just a minute ago, on behalf of oneself against the other. Because if this happens, you'll bring discord into the house. For who makes you to differ? And what do you have that you did not receive? And if you did not indeed receive it, why do you boast as if you've not received it? You are already satisfied. You are already enriched. You have reigned as sovereigns apart from us. And I wish indeed you did reign, that we also might reign with you. Okay, there's a little bit of, he's being facetious. You have gone somewhere ahead of the time. Anyone notice that? Paul's a master of this. He's going to actually expose them as, okay, without calling them you're being foolish. But he's essentially referring to a matter of the throne. And you're going there. Whoa, whoa, whoa. For I think that Elohim has exhibited us, the emissaries or the servants, last as appointed to death, because we became a spectacle to the world, both to the messengers and to men. Notice how he includes the cosmos here. This includes the heavenly realm too. A spectacle, as they say. We are fools for the sake of Messiah, but you are wise in Messiah. We are weak, but you are strong. You are in esteem, but we are not appreciated. Until the present hour, we both hunger and thirst, and we are scantily clad and beaten and homeless, and labor, working with our own hands, being cursed we blessed, being persecuted we suffer, being insulted we help. We have been made as the filth of the world, dirt wiped off by all until now. I do not write this to shame you, but to warn you as my beloved children. For if you should have 10,000 instructors in Messiah, yet not many fathers for one in Messiah, Yeshua, I have brought you forth through the good news. Therefore, I appeal to you. There's an incredible humility here. And Paul is not going to steal the glory of Messiah as he's doing this. He's humbling himself and telling the others to remain humble, because what we've been given is a great task. But we must retain our humility while we do this. So then he goes on to say, to become imitators of me. So he's humbled himself before he makes this statement. I am the example of this. I am a good witness. He's not making apologies for that. But he's saying, I'm making it from a place of knowing what the place I am truly in today. But I have to tell you that I am a witness for you to understand and to follow and to get this whole message. For this reason, I have sent Timothy to you, who is my beloved and trustworthy son of the master. So Paul has gotten to a place where he trusts him. He's learned to trust Timothy, who shall remind you of my ways in Messiah, as I teach everywhere in every assembly. Now some are puffed up, as though I were not coming to you, but I shall come to you shortly, if the master desires. I shall know not the word of those that are puffed up, but the power. For the reign of Elohim is not in speech, but in power. He's referring to, without the Ruach, he's nothing. But do you wish, shall I come to you with a rod, or in love and a spirit of meekness? Which one? All are going to be required, by the way. He's giving them a choice. Again, it's rhetorical. You need it all. If we come just in meekness, not enough. If we come just in love as they understand it, not enough. If we come just with a rod, not enough. Goes on, chapter 5. It is commonly reported, and this is where Paul is going to deal with behavior. Now, notice that he's not focusing on doctrine. I notice in modern Messianic and Hebrew roots movements and Christian movements and whatnot, I notice in a lot of these movements, the focus is so much on the doctrine. And so we get all this discord, all this division as a result. This is why we see thousands of denominations, movements, and everything else, because the focus now is not knowing how to apply the truth. It's actually all focused on this knowledge. But what about the actual application of it? Which many of us have, we've lived a life of faith where it was all about our doctrine, all about our knowledge. Was it actually about your witness and the application of it? Did you really know how to apply it? Paul's going to focus on the application here, the actual behavior. He goes here, and such whoring as not even named among the nations is one to have his father's wife. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What sort of behavior is going down in this house in the Corinthians? It's pretty serious. So he knows that there's a physical expression of whoring occurring because there is a spiritual whoredom still in the house. So it's physically playing out. And in this case, in this particular, is particularly incestuous.
Bethel means house of God. These occultists know that, and they know the scripture that says that judgment starts in the house of God. Bethel is a sex and drug cult, and that's what this just referenced.
This house in the Corinthians. It's pretty serious. So he knows that there's a physical expression of whoring occurring because there is a spiritual whoredom still in the house. So it's physically playing out. And
we just showed the last 2 or 3 videos that have to do with this whoring and how that blonde girl walked up when I was standing out on the street corner and said, they're raping our children. and how the nurse that came to my yard sale said the common bond between all these children that are being raped is Bethel in Redding, California. This is how it's being hidden, is it's a Freemasonic Luciferian cult.
This case in this is one to have his father's wife. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What sort of behavior is going down in this house in the Corinthians? It's pretty serious. So he knows that there's a physical expression of whoring occurring because there is a spiritual whoredom still in the house. So it's
because they're still practicing the Kabbalah. There's still physical whoring going on because they're practicing the doctrine of the fallen angels. If you go and look at Bethel, the playlist, Bethel practicing Kabbalah, Kabbalah being taught at Bethel, whichever way I put it inside the name on the top of the playlist, that list is abominations from Deuteronomy 18:10 through 12. Those teachings from Bethel are the Kabbalah, the doctrine of the fallen angels. That's what snuck into Bethel Redding.
physically playing out. Is one to have his father's wife. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What sort of behavior is going down in this house in the Corinthians? It's pretty serious. So he knows that there's a physical expression of whoring occurring because there is a spiritual whoredom still in the house. So it's physically playing out. And in this case, in this particular, is particularly incestuous. And is not to cause offense. He's particularly dealing with matters of the house of Yehuda in spiritual terms. And you have been puffed up and did not, and you've been puffed up and did not rather mourn, so that he who has done this deed be removed from among you. For I indeed, as absent in the body but present in the spirit, have already judged the one who did this as though I were present. Whoa, 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 what does he mean? What's going on here? In the name of our Master Yeshua Messiah, you are gathered together, and my spirit, with the power of our Master Yeshua Messiah, delivers such a one to the adversary, Hasatan, for destruction of the flesh, in order that his spirit may be saved in the day of Master Yeshua. Whoa, whoa, whoa. He's saying, no, you're going to need to execute judgment, to deliver this person to the adversary so that they can actually experience the destruction of the flesh. And this is for their purpose of restoration. So even the judgment on, he's using a very serious example in the physical of incest, incestual type matter here, that relates to a much weighty matter of incestual type matter spiritually. And he's saying we need to deliver this to the adversary, the reason for the adversary, so that this person can be broken down from their pride in order that they may be restored. So it's interesting how he's looking at dealing with matters. He just takes it to a very extreme example here. Your boasting is not good. Do you not know? Look where he goes here. That a little leaven leavens the entire lump. He actually refers to the spring appointed times. And of course, at this time, they had been fulfilled physically and literally in the flesh by Yeshua. And he actually is going to point them to it. Now listen what he says here. Therefore, cleanse out the old leaven so that you are a new lump. So everything he's using this physical ancestral example, but
in Bethel's situation, the old leaven is the mystery religions that are now being taught inside Bethel and turned into a financial Ponzi scheme. And that financial Ponzi scheme money is being used to finance part of the takeover of Redding, California.
Everything he's going to do with that is now going to go to the weightier matter, the spiritual matter. And it's incredible how he wields this. Look at this. For also Messiah, our Pesach, was slaughtered for us. Now look at this. I'm sorry to my Christian brothers and sisters, but the Moedim, the appointed time, is still relevant. So let us celebrate.
He just said the holy feast dates are still important. The Moedim. He was trying to make sure you guys understand the front of the book and the back of the book. If you're coming from a Sunday worshiping Christian viewpoint, which is where I came from, which is where Curtis came from, if you come from that viewpoint, you're practicing dispensational theology. It doesn't have anything to do with Yeshua HaMashiach, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It says to the law and to the testimony of Yeshua. If we don't end up sticking to the law, and you're saying the law's been done away with, then to the law and the testimony, if a man doesn't come speaking according to these words, there's no truth in him. Yeshua said, my words are spirit and truth. If you do not have to the law and the testimony of Yeshua, Yeshua said, do you think I came to do away with the law? I tell you, I did not. I came to fulfill the law. All the things in the Old Testament that were the prophecies of this is what he will have to do. He'll have to heal a blind man. He'll have to heal a leper, then the 10 lepers, and all of his miracles that he did were fulfillments of things from the past that had been, this is what's going to happen according to the apostles. The apostle said, or the prophet said that this is going to happen later, all inside one human body that is the Messiah. These things are all going to happen. When Yeshua sent the leper that had just been healed, or the blind man that had just been healed, to the priesthood, it was so that they would get scared that he was there, because they knew that if somebody outside of the priesthood was healing, that the Messiah was now there. So this group of Freemasonic Luciferians is taking you, and everything that Messiah has inside Scripture, these people are trying to get you to do the opposite. Bill Johnson, his 4-minute long thing about the honoring our leaders and all that stuff, every single thing this group does is Freemasonic Luciferian worship.
Everything he's using this physical ancestral example, but everything he's going to do with that is now going to go to the weightier matter, the spiritual matter. And it's incredible how he wields this. Look at this. For also Messiah, our Pesach, was slaughtered for us. Now look at this. I'm sorry to my Christian brothers and sisters, but the Moedim, the appointed time, is still relevant. So let us celebrate the appointed time, the festival, the Moed. Not with all of it. He doesn't say, so let us now forget about it. So now it doesn't matter. In fact, he does the opposite. He points them to Torah. And this is why I say to a lot of people, Paul, in the end, was a major, major player in my return back to the foundations of my faith. I'm sorry to my Christian brothers and sisters. You have no way out of this. Paul is not saying it's been done away with. He actually points them to Torah for them to deal with it.
Okay, go over to the Olive Branch Fellowship on YouTube, go into their playlist, and go watch the, I think it's 9 or 11 part series that's called The Difficult Words of Paul. I will put the link in the video description and in the comment section if you need to be able to understand that Paul was not bringing a different gospel, which means that your Sunday worship theology is out the window instantly.
Quite the opposite. And this is why I say to a lot of people, Paul, in the end, was a major, major player in my return back to the foundations of my faith. I'm sorry to my Christian brothers and sisters. You have no way out of this. Paul is not saying it's been done away with. He actually points them to Torah for them to deal with it. Quite the opposite. Especially what many of you might have been taught within maybe your various Christian journeys. So he now points them back to this thing, but he's saying, let us not do this with the old leaven, the old spiritual understanding conditions, nor with the leaven of evil bread. Of evil and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. So it's not don't celebrate these. You now need to understand the weightier matter of these. And now we have Yeshua Messiah. So it's incredible. He's actually getting this, and so he's expressing this to them. I wrote to you in my letter not to keep company with those who whore. Think of this spiritually now.
Remember that the 7 mountain mandate is the great dragon with 7 heads on which the whore sits. The whore sits on a dragon with 7 heads. And here is wisdom. The 7 heads of the beast are 7 mountains. And those 7 mountains are Bill Bright from Campus Crusade, CC, and Lauren Cunningham from Youth with a Mission, which scripture says that when you go out and try and make people into disciples, like traveling across land and sea, you make them twice the member of Gehenna than you yourself are. Sorry, I'm pulling it just from memory. So go find that verse, but it's talking about that all these people that are going out to be missionaries are taking out a false gospel that will make the people who listen to it and practice it twice as guilty as they themselves actually are for passing along that false gospel. That's who wrote Bill Bright and Lauren Cunningham created the 7 mountain mandate, and the 7 mountains are a Jesuit teaching, a long time old Catholic teaching that is connected to the Templar Dominion theology, and all of that can be found inside the playlist.
Because I can tell you on both sides of this river of life, Yehuda, Messianic, Hebrew roots camps, Christian camps, and all the various reasons, I'm telling you, there's a lot of spiritual whoring going on. This is serious. And again, almost 2,000 years ago,
the whore of Babylon is the one who created the Kabbalah. It's the religion of the fallen angels, with Semiramis as the head of the group. Semiramis being the wife of Nimrod and the mother of Tammuz, the 5th great-grandson of Noah. This is where we start getting the bad guys coming back in after the flood had taken out everything that was bad. This is where it gets really bad, was with Nimrod. That's where the mystery religions coagulated. Everything that the very first verse in the Bible about the Babylonians talks about that they were making bricks with mortar and using bricks and using slime for mortar to be able to create walls. And everything in scripture where Yah is talking about his altars need to be made with unhewn stones. If you go into Freemasonry, their whole teaching system is built upon that they're supposed to be chiseling the rocks. But Yah's temple, Yah's altars are always made with unhewn stones. And that's where these Masons start taking teachings and flipping them around and making them the opposite of what Scripture is.
Exactly what the Messianic, Hebrew roots camps, Christian camps, and all the various reasons, I'm telling you, there's a lot of spiritual whoring going on. This is serious.
They're practicing the Kabbalah.
And again, almost 2,000 years ago, it's exactly what Paul is saying. And here we are almost 2,000 years later, and I find myself saying the same thing to the modern day.
If your righteousness doesn't outweigh that of the scribes and the Pharisees, remember that verse? That has to do with 2 different groups of people who are practicing the Kabbalah.
they Corinthians, which is us. We're spiritually whoring. And that's what we've been doing. And many of us are waking up right now. At this 11th hour as we come to the end of the age, discovering that. We thought we were just writing to some bad behavior in the Corinthians, when actually, no, this is speaking to us today. If we know what Paul's doing, he's taking the flesh example, going to the weightier matter, and then pointing them back to Torah, but to now honor it with the application or the why of the spring appointed times, not the what, the why. Picking up in verse 10 here. And I certainly did not mean with those of this world who whore. So he's saying, I'm not talking about this like you, or with the greedy gain of the swindlers or the idolaters, since then you would have no need to go out of the world. But now I've written to you not to keep company with any called a brother. Ooh, this is dealing with spiritual matters now. If he is one who whores, or of greedy gain, an idolater, a reviler, a drunkard, a swindler, do not even eat with such a one. So if this is expressing itself in the flesh, there is something wrong spiritually. Something very wrong spiritually.
That's specifically talking about Freemasons. If they are doing those bad things that come from the Kabbalah, we're not even supposed to eat with such a one.
Spiritually. Do you see what he's doing? If this is the fruit of it, he's going, no. And they're identifying with the faith? And this is their fruit? No. So now he's going to bring in matters of judgment here. We're going to go on and explain that. So what do I have to do with judging outsiders? So what have I got to do with judging Rome, basically, is what he's saying. We go, Rome can be, what do I got to do with judging them? Do you not judge those who are inside the camp, the house that he's going? This is matters of for us. But Elohim judges those who are outside. He's saying, don't worry, there's a great white throne judgment coming. He's got that. He's dealing with that. And if the world is judged by you, are you unworthy to judge the smallest of matters? So now he's getting to this point. How are you dealing with all of this stuff, this behavior, the things going on inside yourself and in others from a perspective of the house of Israel? Do you not know that we will judge the messengers, the angels? How much?
Do you not know that we will judge the angels, the messengers? How are you going to judge them if you can't identify them? The Freemasons are the cult of the fallen angels. If you go in the playlist, the Ascended Master Saint Germain is Lucifer, esoteric head of Freemasonry and the New Age movement. He is based in Mount Shasta. He's the one giving out the mark of the beast, King Solomon's gold, to help finance the theft of Redding, California. It's all inside the playlist. Go and watch. You can't judge the angels if you don't know who they are. The top of Freemasonry is the Great White Brotherhood of Light Ascended Masters. Where Scripture says, call no man master, these people want to be called masters. Every single thing about what this group is doing is they are the fallen angel cult of Mount Shasta. Mount Shasta is only 45 minutes to an hour away from Redding, California, on I-5, right where Bethel is on I-5, 45 minutes south of that mountain. It's an esoteric, it's the magicians. It's in 2016, Trump was seen at Patty Hearst's house, who owns the History Channel. The History Channel is bringing up the gold from King Solomon, his 666 talents of gold per year for 40 years equals 1,998,000 pounds of gold. That's the modern troy ounces. in opposed to the temple weight, which would make the treasure at the Curse of Oak Islands 2 million pounds, are buried 40 feet down. That's King Solomon's 666 talents of gold per year for 40 years. That gold is being turned into something called a gold back, which is where they're taking the gold, squeezing it until it's as thin as your dollar bills, and the amount of gold inside the weight of that dollar bill is equal to the amount of value of that dollar. That 2 million pounds of gold is the mark of the beast. When the economy crashes, Saint Germain is the one who's supposed to be giving his world trust, established in 1729, to the world to refinance the new coming one world currency, the mark of the beast. How can you judge the angels if you don't know who they are?
More the matters of Elphin and others from a perspective of the house of Israel. Do you not know that we will judge the messengers, the angels? How much more the matters of this life? My goodness. What the heck? I don't know if we get how far the extremes and the examples, he's just wielding this. And going to these examples in the extreme in the flesh and now in the spiritual. The messengers, the angels, what? We can't even deal with our own matters here? We're going to be judging angels? And then you truly have judgment of this life. If then you truly have judgments of this life, do you appoint them as judges who are least esteemed by the assembly? I say this to your shame. Is it so that there is not a wise one among you? Not even one? Who shall be able to judge between his brothers? But brother against brother goes to be judged. And that before unbelievers? You're going to take these matters now to Rome? Already then, there's a failure with you. That you have your lawsuits among you, your disputes, and now you're all dealing with the Roman courts. Why rather be wronged? Why not rather be cheated?
Bethel kidnapped my kid. I'm not going after my son because if I do, he gets put into the foster care system that they run and that they're raping children inside of. So this is saying, why would I go to Rome and ask Rome for their advice? They're the bad guys. Bethel got in between me and getting to see my son, and if I go to the Romans, to the court systems, they take my son, they put him into the pedophile group that we've already exposed.
I just love with you that you have your lawsuits among you, your disputes, and now you're all dealing with the Roman courts. Why rather be wronged? Why not rather be cheated? I just love Paul and how he makes a point. Why not do this then? You know, but you yourselves do wrong and cheat, and that to your brothers. Do you not know that the unrighteous shall not inherit the reign of Elohim? It's interesting where he goes with this. He's not talking even about justification of the blood of Messiah here. He's actually referring to the reign, the 1,000-year, the last great day. It's interesting. He's very aware that there's something that is being tested to see how we're going to deal with this so that can we be trusted with what's coming? Whoa. How many here, right now today, can be trusted with the throne and the judgment? So far, he's mentioned the messengers, the angels. Wow. Do not be deceived. Neither those who whore, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor homosexuals, nor thieves, nor greedy of gain, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor swindlers shall inherit the reign of Elohim. That's a bridal statement. This is talking about his governance that's coming. and how important our test is right now to deal with matters of judgment correctly and properly. And we are going to look at this today, because I tell you, if we do not get why he's saying this to the Corinthians and we don't actually understand this application, this is a big part of the actual process or the diacrino that is going upon all of us right now, and we'll speak about that. And such were some of you that you were washed, but you were set apart. But you were declared right in the name of Master Yeshua and by the Spirit of our Elohim. All is permitted me, but not all do profit. All is permitted me, but I shall not under authority of any. Foods for the stomach, and the stomach for foods. But Elohim shall destroy both of it and them. And the body is not for whoring, but for the master, and the master for the body. Make no mistake what he's talking about here. It's our spiritual condition and the test that we are dealing with here. We will whore if we don't get the leaven out of the house. We will do this spiritually. So don't be surprised how it looks physically. That's all he's saying. I can tell your spiritual condition by your outward appearance, basically, is what he's saying here. But the news I'm getting back is telling me something here. You're not healthy spiritually. And Elohim who raised up the Master shall also raise up through his power. Do you not know that your bodies are members of Messiah? Shall I then take the members of Messiah and make them members of a whore? I guess you wouldn't accuse Paul of being politically correct at this point, would you, in a letter? Imagine this going.
The people who are whoring are the Masons, the Bethelites who are practicing the Kabbalah, the doctrine of the fallen angels.
Going up on their do you not know that your bodies are members of Messiah? Shall I then take the members of Messiah and make them members of a whore? I guess you wouldn't accuse Paul of being politically correct at this point, would you, in a letter? Imagine this going up on their version of, CNN or Fox News. He's not being politically correct here. In fact, Paul, by modern standards, would be canceled right now about this point. He would be censored by modern standards. Or do you not know that he who is joined to a whore is one body? For he says the two shall become one flesh. He goes right back to the garden in the physical typology of the creation of man and woman, and the two becoming one. And then that physical great shadow picture of the two becoming echad and having the echad light of sight, and how that is to relate spiritually. He's a master, and he's wielding it as such. And he who is joined to the master is one spirit, flee whoring, flee spiritual adultery. Every sin that a man does is outside the body, but he who commits whoring sins against his own body. Wow.
And the people who are inside the whoring group of the Masons are the ones who are sinning against their own bodies. Because when you're in the Messiah doing the Torah, you're not whoring with the Babylonian stuff that goes along with it.
Or do you not know that your body is the dwelling place of the set apart, or the Ruach, who is in you, which is you who have from Elohim, and you are not your own. We are bondservants.
We're doulos. I'll bring that up with a story about Scott Grubbs in a future video.
But for you, we were bought with a price. Therefore, esteem Elohim in your body and in your spirit, which are of Elohim. Okay. In those three chapters, Paul is dealing with something very serious in matters of relating to judgment concerning behavior. There's an outward condition that is exposing the inward condition. And how are we to deal with this as we go on our journey? And I would say to you,
hey guys, so
I'm gonna make this a part 2 real quick. We're gonna change something on the slide. I know that I've seen Todd in this shirt in one of the Bethel videos. I'm not sure that I don't think that he is speaking at Bethel when he's wearing this shirt in the video in the first one because of these palm branches behind him. I don't think that was at Bethel he was talking, but I have seen him in the shirt at Bethel. So we can see Todd. This is the Baphomet. This is the Baphomet. There's a whole video about the symbology of what he's doing in this outfit already on the channel, but we're going to add a part 2 to this. So I added this pinned comment to the side of the original video. So this is the top comment. Start at 7 minutes and 40 seconds to see Todd White in his Baphomet shirt telling an imaginary story about sex trafficking and how we shouldn't be mad at the sex traffickers while he's wearing this shirt.
The truth is that when Jesus comes into your heart and into your life, forgiveness is the first thing that has to happen. So if you can't see how much you've been forgiven, you will live as a victim instead of being victorious. So a soul has to live from the place of not.
I don't want to miss that with the words at the bottom, so let's just rewind a tiny bit.
And when you were touched wrong, it's because you were innocent and got violated.
Oh, I was unaware there was more before that. Hold on. Let's roll it back this far.
Does he live in a hut and have no refrigerator, no nothing, but have Jesus and have everything? They're way more prosperous than the wealthiest person. It has to do with your soul, it has to do with your mind, your will, your emotions, it has to do with your faith.
So this guy is not reading scripture out loud. Inside the faith of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Yeshua example for us that when he was done reading the scroll, he gave it to the priest and he went and sat down. So it says he was reading from the scroll. That's what he was doing on the Sabbath. So this is what we're supposed to be doing on the Sabbath, is reading from the scriptures. Todd's going to tell us this imaginary story, but he's also wearing this Baphomet shirt. So let's watch his hand sign, see if there's anything that's Freemason-like. I don't know, pointing at your head, which means that you're more all-knowing than everybody else because you're a 30-30 Freemason and you've met the Dynamo of Living Power in person, which means that you've now met Lucifer. Well, the guy that channels the devil. You have to. When Kanye West said, I sold my soul to the devil, I got a crappy deal, at least it came with a few toys, like a Happy Meal. He really sold his soul to the Ascended Master Saint Germain in Mount Shasta. That's where everybody signs their contracts.
And if you can't prosper in your thoughts, you can't prosper in life. And you'll always think from a poverty mindset. And a poverty mindset doesn't mean that I need to be broke all my life. See, sometimes we equivalent. It's not that. It's not that I need to be broke because they're pretty simple about poverty, so they can't have anything. So sometimes we take that and think poverty is just financial, but it's not. Poverty is a soul issue, man. It's a mind, will, and emotion issue. It's how you think, where you think from. In other words, there are people that are out there. Here's a way that the soul doesn't prosper. You live because somebody. I'll just step into it. There's kids here, but I can talk about it. So I can hear one. That's okay. So if you were younger and you were touched wrong as a kid, if somebody tries to help you, God forbid it be a Christian, that would get you to feel rejected because of what was done to you. That's not the gospel. They will get you to live towards victory instead of live from victory. When somebody is touched wrong, it's because
all of his hand signs that he was just doing, remember that the scripture says that they will speak with their hands and teach with their feet. And it's specifically calling out the bad guys that have snuck into the church. Well, all these bad guys are practicing the same stuff that Freemasons practice because they are Freemasons that have snuck into the church. So all of these stories are from Todd's vain imagination. Or these are him crying out and trying to get somebody to hear what's really going on and hoping that somebody will understand the symbology so that he can be able to come out of the cult. That would be good if Todd understood from a non-narcissistic viewpoint, and we figured out that he was just calling out for help from inside the cult. Since Todd's one of those people who would be about my same age and both Rywhammers, we know what cult it is that we've all been programmed into. So let's wake each other up.
The person that touched them wrong didn't know who they were when they did it. And when you were touched wrong, it's because you were innocent and got violated. But the truth is that when Jesus comes into your heart and into your life, forgiveness is the first thing that has to happen. So if you can't see how much you've been forgiven, you will live as a victim instead of being victorious. So a soul has to live from the place of not a victim mentality. If I rescue a child out of sex trafficking or a young girl out of sex trafficking and don't teach them who Jesus has created them to be, they will live from a place of a victim mentality and have been rescued by you, and they will be codependent upon you to keep them safe, rather than them understanding them understanding.
Okay, did you see the 2 fingers pointing up? And when he made that sign, he specifically looks dead on into the camera.
The reality of a victim mentality and have been rescued by you, and they will be codependent upon you to keep them safe, rather than understanding them a victim mentality and have been rescued by you, and they will be codependent upon you to keep them safe, rather than understanding the reality of who God is that keeps them safe, and that nobody can do them harm anymore because if one died, then all die. Those that live should no longer live for this. This is just for 30-year mature Christian. This is for people that come to Christ to get born again. Oh, look, listen.
Do you guys know that there is born again inside Freemasonry also? So he can still tell the story of born again, and it has nothing to do with coming to repentance, the Holy Spirit leading you to understanding that you are in sin and need a Savior. Understanding what sin is, according to Scripture, a transgression of the law. We are no longer under the letter of the law, but under the spirit of the law, because the letter of the law brings death, but the spirit of the law brings life. Therefore, what these guys are bringing to you and teaching has nothing to do with Scriptures. It has nothing to do with the words that are inside the Bible. This guy is talking about his own Masonic satanic cult, and he's telling on the group.
The youngest child full-time prostitute that I know that has been rescued, 3 years old, active, working the streets actively, taught that it's playtime. Taught. That's horrible. Now, what would you do if that kid got rescued and you were to try to nurture them? Would you say, woe is you, and get them to have a big pity party on them? Or would you train them? This is who you really are. Blinders removed. See exactly who God created you to be. Because you were a kid, got raised that way. That's all you ever knew. See, because if we don't have that mentality, then the people that are ahead of sex trafficking are our enemies, when really, they're not our enemies at all. The enemies of the devil who comes to steal, kill, and destroy.
The head of the sex trafficking is not our enemies at all. It's the devil, not the head of sex trafficking.
You think that it is because you were a kid, you got raised that way. That's all you ever knew. See, because if we don't have that mentality, then the people that are ahead of sex trafficking are our enemies, when really they're not our enemies at all. The enemy is the devil who comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Where do you think that mindset of that person that sold that kid or bought that kid or trained that kid is? This is heavy stuff, man. Or like, well, I don't want to think that way. Yeah, like if someone cuts you off in traffic, you're like,
Okay, you guys can go and watch the rest of that, but let's look at a couple things real quick. So let's start right here. Brian Johnson owns Goat Lord Farm.
yeah, so anyway, all the way through my life, 11 years old, ended up, it's like, the Christian family got divorced, and by 11 and a half, my mom, like, she was kicking me, I was rebellious, I was rowdy, I was all the way around, so I went to a place called Asonic Mountain, I grew up there, about 5.5 years in a place called Freemasonry, I went there, and I was only addicted to 12.
Alright guys, a quick one.
Yeah, so anyway, all the way through my life, I was 11 years old, they ended up no Christianity in my family, they got divorced, and by 11 and a half, my mom, like, she couldn't handle me. I was rebellious, I was rowdy, there was no Christianity in my family, all the way around, so I went to a place called the Masonic House, and I grew up there for about 5.5 years in a place where the Freemasons sponsor it. I went in there and
Testimony from a friend. Pause this and read it.
One of the most outrageous ministries. It's just fun. It's just fun to go hang out with. I don't know how many thousands it is now. 5,000 or so radical, fire-breathing revivalists meeting in the Masonic Lodge, which is just perfect. Come on. If you can't have a revival at the Masonic Lodge, where are you going to have one? Yeah, one of the most outrageous ministries. It's just fun. It's just fun to go hang out with. I don't know how many thousands it is now. 5,000 or so radical, fire-breathing revivalists meeting in the Masonic Lodge, which is just perfect. Come on. If you can't have a revival at the Masonic Lodge, where are you going to have one? That's just perfect. So cool. I love you guys. Really thankful. I'm bummed I'm going to be out of town when Russell's here in January, but he's going to speak on a Sunday night here as well as Jesus culture. Person is so radical, fire-breathing, revivalists meeting in the Masonic Lodge, which is just perfect. Come on. If you can't have a revival at the Masonic Lodge, where are you going to have one?
Or do you not know that your body is the dwelling place of the set apart, or the Ruach, who is in you, which is you who have from Elohim, and you are not your own. We are bondservants. But for you, we were bought with a price. Therefore, esteem Elohim in your body and in your spirit, which are of Elohim. Okay. In those 3 chapters, Paul is dealing with something very serious in matters of relating to judgment concerning behavior. There's an outward condition that is exposing the inward condition. And how are we to deal with this as we go on our journey? And I would say to you that this has been dealt with very poorly on both sides of the river. And there's so much discord and dissension and divisiveness that we are seeing, the state of what we are seeing in so-called biblical faith or the Abrahamic faith. So we're seeing this because what we're going to discuss today has not been dealt with properly. That's how serious this actually is. A lot of what we see in the modern religious landscape is a result of us not getting what we're about to discuss. It's a very, very serious matter, one of which all of us are guilty. There'll be nobody here today who's not guilty of what we're about to look at. But we're not going to stay in a place of condemnation. This is what Paul's going to encourage. Even though we may be guilty of these things, we need to learn them and be able to apply them in a way that is going to bear good fruit. The English definition of judgment, so in our English, an opinion, a decision that is based on careful thought, or should be. Council culture is not doing that anymore, obviously. The ability to be considered decisions or to come to sensible conclusions. Well, we're definitely not seeing that anymore as a result. We're beyond this. So we're now seeing Rome unable to do this. And that's why we see the council culture. An opinion or conclusion, the ability to make good decisions about what should be done. Okay, so the act of proper discernment before any form of sentencing. So there's a process that's going to come before final judgment. Okay, this process is we no longer have a society that's able to do this because we are in a childlike state emotionally and spiritually. And what he's trying to address with them is you're in a childlike state spiritually, Corinth. We got to grow you up. We got to get you to a healthier place. They're essentially were in their version of council culture, an ancient form of council culture. The outcome of judgment will lead to action, though. So we're going to see this. So caution, judging others. I've got here, watch your step. And there's a reason why I'm going to do this, because we're all going to face the bema seat of Messiah. And so the whole example, especially in Roman terms, is you would walk up the steps to the one who assigns the reward after the judgment of what has occurred with the race. And so you process that. We see this even in the modern day Olympics still, where they'll stand on the podium and things like this. But there's actually, it talks about the way we're to look at the bema. We'll talk about this, that we're walking the steps of our trial, our test, our judgment. English definition of discernment, the ability to judge well. So you're going to judge, but it's the ability you're doing something beforehand that's going to allow this. This is a very important process. The blood of Messiah, by the way, has allowed all of this, and Paul's going to get into this. The job of supervising or taking care of something such as an organization or property. So stewardship, so overseeing, all this kinds of thing. Some of your scriptures right at the beginning of chapter 4 may have said that. We'll talk about this. The act of proper discernment before any form of sentencing. If you take this away from any society or any overseeing or stewardship, you're going to end up with essentially a house of chaos, division. We're missing a process. And because of this, we no longer can live in this space of responsibility, accountability, and of course, consequence, which is the result of good judgment. In 1 Corinthians 4:1-2, let's just revisit this, what he's actually saying here. This is how one should regard us, as servants of Messiah and stewards of the mysteries of Elohim. So he's going to relate this to the weightiest of matters spiritually. So we love all the knowledge of the mysteries and all this sorts of things. And we look at these things and, look in the understanding of our faith and everything else. But we're supposed to be stewards of this knowledge. So without the application of the mysteries, we're actually doing ourselves a disfavor. And we're going to misapply these things. Moreover, it is required of stewards that they be found faithful. So the ones doing this are faithful to the reason why we have the stewarding, or the reason why we're going to have judgment. Because believe me, there is judgment here. And there's judgment in the test as well as the judgment that is coming. But how are we supposed to view this and do this? The okionomos here in Greek, it simply means the manager of the household, or the affairs, the steward, the superintendent, the head of the house, or proprietor, entrusted with management of affairs. This can even be particularly in care of receipts, expenditures, manager of farm, land estates, overseer, superintendents, even treasurers. So the way that this is being done is matters of a household. So think of parents are supposed to be stewards of their household. So spiritually, this is why it's instructed to the parents to raise the children in his ways. So you're to be physical stewards as well as spiritual stewards. And this is why he's relating to this. So they understand this and what this okionomos actually means. So he's speaking to them in those terms. But we got pretty messy business going on here. Here is the house of Israel. liars, cheats, adulterers. By the way, I'm speaking of the house now, believers. Forget Rome. It's easy. Rome's easy. This is the state of our house religiously right now. Liars, cheaters, adulterers, fornicators, incest, homosexuality, murderers, idolaters, cowards, the greedy, the violent, the covetous, the prideful, the self-righteous, the lovers of self, to mention a few. This is our house. Oh, I'll just let Rome be my standard. Because if Rome is my standard and I just make my faith political and not biblical, then I can always feel good about myself. Because don't lie to me, many of you are watching the news right now and the clippings and the behavior of cancel culture and a godless society, and you're going, wow, at least I'm not like that. And if you're not saying it out loud, you're thinking it. Because political reality has become your standard. You think that standard, you think what you see witnessing around the world right now is going to be the standard for which we are judged and we are to judge each other? By the way, I'm simply expressing a modern day Paul right now to you. How good does it feel? They were hearing this from Paul almost 2,000 years ago. Am I being politically correct? Can't we just rush back to Rome? Can't we just focus on Rome's version of cancel culture so we can all feel good about ourselves? I'm telling you, I see cancel culture in the house. And I see it over spiritual matters. Shame on us. Because all of this stuff is in our house. And we want to look to the state of Rome as our standard of righteousness and judgment.
Curtis just mentioned that we're not supposed to be relying on political, socio-economical, that type of stuff going on right now. If you are adherent to being a patriotic Christian, you are a Luciferian. The 1776 Constitution of the United States that you are rooting and cheering for is a copy of Anderson's Freemason Constitution of 1723. Therefore, you are yourself adhering yourself to a Luciferian doctrine by doing your pledging allegiance to the flag of the fallen angels. The stars that are inside that flag represent 50 of the fallen angels. That's why it says that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and rulers of this age. The people who are the rulers of this age, like Donald Trump, like Bill, Chris Valentin and Bill Johnson and the Bethelites and the Kenneth Copelands and people like that are the leaders of this age, and they're using Freemasonic Luciferian habits to control the westernized theology churches. If you're patriotic, you are bolstering the religion of the fallen angels.
Though in ancient times Masons were charged in every country to be of the religion of that country or nation.
Ancient times? Yes. Respecting traditions and earlier times.
But 'tis now thought more necessary.
No, not necessary. Expedient.
Agreed. Expedient only to oblige them to that religion in which we all agree.
Leaving their particular opinions to themselves.
That is, to be good men and true.
Or men of honour and honesty.
By whatever denominations or persuasions they may be distinguished.
Shame on us. Because all of this stuff is in our house. And we want to look to the state of Rome as our standard of righteousness and judgment. This is what we're doing in our heart, in our minds. because we love it. Look at how bad they are. Anything but to look in our own house, to look in our own mirror. Paul's going to take us back to the week of unleavened bread as a result. Discern, examine, sentencing. He's using all of these forms. First, this verb tense in judgment, anakrino. To investigate, to examine, inquire, to scrutinize, to sift. To do a forensic, to do an understanding of this, to interrogate, to examine, estimate, determine. He is speaking, and the Greek is capturing it here. There's a process that Paul's taking them through, and he starts off with this. And then he starts to use diakrino, to separate, to make a distinction, to discriminate, to prefer, to learn, discrimination, to decide, to take a dispute and be able to rightly divide. There's a process you're going to be able to enter into. Because there's going to be dispute, contending, variance. There's going to be doubt. You've got to be able to now take this and be able to do something with the anakrino. You're going to go into diakrino. And then the result of that is going to be krino. So he's giving two places here, as he's speaking to the Corinthians, that you need to go through this process before you enter krino. And we would not have a council culture today being expressed in Rome the way we are and seen if we had a society that was capable of anakrino and diakrino, but it is not. It's too immature. And so the only thing that's left is a little child screaming, "You don't love me." Krino. I pass sentence on you, Mom and Dad, because you disciplined me or you reproved and correct me. I pass sentence, and that sentence is, in my mind, you don't love me. Krino is to separate, put asunder, to pick out, select. Now you're going to actually bring in something, to resolve, to decree, to pronounce opinion concerning right or wrong. Look at this. Pass judgment. Deeds, words, others, to rule, to govern, to preside over. In other words, as a part of stewards in the house, we are indeed going to have to enter into krino. But you don't do it before the process that precedes it. And if you don't have the maturity to do that, you're going to end up in discord. Essentially, he's watching a whole house of immature people passing judgment on each other. Like I say, the ancient form of council culture. In the Greek, of course, the equivalents of these are the din and then the mishpat. And this, again, is a process that we see in the ancient Hebrew. You must go through a process of striving, contending, investigating first. Iron sharpens iron, those sort of expressions we see in the English. If you're not doing this, you're going to head into the judgment, and you're going to do this in a very unwise way. That's going to bear bad fruit. Overall, the word judge is used in Scripture 170 times. Paul is using up a lot of them right now as we deal with just these 3 chapters of Corinth to the Corinthians. The question is, what is the place or the process in which he's talking to or about? So our English translations can really struggle here. I'm going to give you an example of something very interesting. This is the demon's judgment, and a lot of people miss this. And this is, of course, Yeshua is dealing with the possessed man and everything else, and he comes down here. And anyway, there ends up being conversations with the demonic spirits inhabiting this person. They say, "Behold," they cry out, "have you come to what? Torment us before the time." This is the basanizo. To test, to touch purity. In other words, now we're even looking at this process. Are you coming here before you even applied the basics of testing? These are demonic spirits. Before what? The appointed time. Whoa. Now herd many pigs are feeding in the distance, or some of them. Look what Yeshua does here. And the demons begged him. They're going, "So what's going on here? We've not even been tested. You're a righteous judge. You're not going through the process." See, if we know we're actually reading there, they're calling them out. We've not had righteous judgment. We don't even know we're reading this. This is the spiritual realm dealing with the authority on all matters while he's in the flesh. Look what he does. He does not even usurp his own position at this point. He's not done. and gone through the whole process that allows all of this, and he's certainly not ascended the throne yet. He's literally dealing with this physically in the time domain. This is very interesting what he does. They beg him, saying, if you cast out, send us away into the herd of pigs. And he said to them, go, so that they come out and went into the pigs. And behold, the whole herd rushed down the steep bank into the sea and drowned in the waters. You'd be thinking, what the heck is that all about? Now these things are going to drown in the waters. What do we got again? Disembodied spirits? Yeshua does not go to the place of Crino with them. He's the one who could have, and he didn't. See, there's an accusation coming upon them that they know relates to the appointed name, and they know relates to righteous judgment. And what does he do with them? Okay, fine. Die, Crino. Not Crino. What was the result of that? You just lost your flesh bodies in the pigs as well. I'm going to deal with you at the appointed time. You see, they got their wish and their answer, but Yeshua didn't go to the place that wasn't appointed. You see what happened? They're accusing him of it. Are you going to Crino? Are you doing this? And you've not carried out your righteousness here?
Meaning
how many of you in your Christian journeys were truly taught what was...
Meaning he hadn't died yet. He hadn't ascended. He hadn't taken the keys to Sheol yet. He hadn't finished what was happening. And this righteous judgment that happens for the demons happens when Yeshua comes back in the clouds, which is going to be soon, and sooner than you think. Scripture says that the bad guys are going to go out, the leaders of the world are going to go out into the desert and try and take aim at the appointed times and seasons, because we're inside the flat earth and the stars represent the times and seasons, and we know that the Space Force from Trump has a Freemason chevron, and that Elon Musk's SpaceX is X is the sign of the dead, or Osiris. These people have plans to go and first fake a rapture using Project Bluebeam, bringing back out several of the people that died during COVID will now be alive again, walking the streets. They will tell you that you missed the rapture, and that now your only choice is to fight against Yah Elohim upon his return. That's the great deception that's coming. These people are, Bethel is priming you for that future.
What's going on in that moment? Fine, have your wish. And then they lost their flesh. And of course, everybody knows my teachings and past and whatnot, so I always say demons, Bacon, the choice of demons. It just basically, I'm not going there. You're wondering whether I am or not, but I'm not. So fine. Have your pigs, have your swine. That ain't gonna last long either. Why does Paul focus on behavior and not doctrine when you're seeing dealing with the Corinthians? Why don't we just see a bunch of doctrinal disputes on? Why has he given such importance, priority to behavior? Why is application so important to him? Why was application so important to those demons and the pigs? Why was it even so important in Yeshua's reaction?
You will know them by their fruit. Yeshua couldn't do the final thing yet. He hadn't ascended. He has to come back down on the horse.
Do you mean that this is a major part of the test that's going to relate, as Paul was saying in those chapters, to the reign of Messiah? If we can get a very important matter for the age to come, for any of us who wish to be used to be a part of the bridal governance of Messiah, we're talking about it. Right now. This is one of the biggest matters we could ever talk about. 1 Corinthians 3:5 goes on to say this, but with me is a very small thing that I should be judged. What word is he using there now? Anacrino. To investigate, to look at, to scrutinize, to question, to test these things. That's what he's talking about. That I should be in this space. By you, or by any human court. In fact, I do not even anacrino myself. For I am aware of anything against myself, but I thereby acquitted. It is the master who judges me. So now he's gone into this place that I've been examined long before serving you. Something's interesting here. Therefore, do not pronounce judgment before the time, crino, before the master comes, who will bring to light the things hidden in darkness and will disclose the purposes of the heart. Then each one will receive commendation from Elohim. Actual reference there to the judgment seat of Messiah. In Matthew 9:27-28, it puts it like this. This is interesting. We've already talked about the messengers. Then Peter said in reply, "See what I have left everything and followed you. But what then will we have?" And Yeshua said to them, "Truly I say to you, in the new world, or in the age to come, when the Son of Man sits on his glorious throne, you have followed me will also sit on the 12." This is interesting. Come follow me. I will grant you to see how it's going to go. And this is what it relates to. The judging of the 12 tribes of Israel. Host stewardship for 1,000 years. Reign. Paul went there. Now Matthew's going there. They know how this is working. They know how this is said. And the word judgment there is crino. To pass judgment. To determine, to decree the 12 tribes of Israel. You better be tested in this anacrino, diacrino space first. You better pass the test. Let's see whether you can be truly trusted. Let's see if you get this. Because if I'm going to trust you with this, I better be able to see how you went about getting to crino. And council culture is not going to cut it in the 1,000-year reign. Do you see the point? Because if council culture is the way we crino in the 1,000 years to come, we're not going to have an eternal family. I hope you're getting this. You're seeing the final expressions of one of the most important matters playing out in a society that is godless. Our Messiah is not going to have a 1,000-year reign of cancel culture. Please get that message, if not anything, from today. 1 Corinthians 5:3-5. So we revisit this. What's going on here? For then absent the body I present in spirit, and if present, I have already pronounced crino on the one who did such a thing. This is referring to the ancestral natures. Oh, I've done it. But I didn't do it without what preceded it, the anacrino and the diacrino. In other words, the verb, the action, the process that comes before the judgment. These are action verbs, so you're literally coming into this place. You are to deliver this man to Satan for the destruction of the flesh. And of course, the purpose for the crino is still that they would be going through a process of the great plan of redemption. The reason for the crino in this test is for that purpose, because there is a crino coming at the end of the 1,000-year reign. It's called the Great White Throne Judgment. And it will be righteous. And it will be for all who have ever lived and have ever existed. And it's quite possible that he's choosing, if you've seen the Great Judgment series, we're going into this in some more detail. He's choosing not to do this alone in order that it may be righteous. I believe the Apostle Paul understood this at such a level that he's trying to get across to him, you need to take this one seriously. How you play with people, that he's making the point. Oh yeah, I'm going to crino on this act, for sure. But I didn't do it without the process. And this is all the point that he's making. And he goes on, our boasting is not good, that you now live in the whole leaven. And again now, he points, cleanse out the old leaven. Go and celebrate this festival, but now do it looking in the mirror, so that you do it with sincerity and truth. You're not just taking a box. This whole week of unleavened bread has not only been done away with, we now should be taking it more serious than ever, because now we have the blood of Messiah that allows us to examine, to anacrino, to diacrino, the reality of us first and then others. And we are to now do this and spend a week every year to do this. Well, what if we turn this into just a tour of box ticking, and we just get the leaven out of the house, which of course I catch out everyone every year with some example, to make a point. You didn't get it out anyway in the physical, the box ticking of it. Do you know how serious the week of unleavened bread really is? Do any of us? I don't think any of us do, by the way. I'm saying that sort of rhetorically. I'm not even saying I do yet. I'm saying we have to examine ourselves. This is a big deal. We have to look in the mirror. We have the blood of Messiah that gives us a chance to do so. But if we can do that process, then we might eventually become able to be trusted with crino. both in the flesh, which is the example of the weightiest matter, which goes into the spiritual. And that's what Paul was doing. The messengers, the 12 tribes of Israel, the great white throne judgment. What he's saying is your test now is to whether you're even capable of going there. It's happening right now. And we are being given a mode being devoted to the process of understanding this. And Paul goes right there. No coincidence. Of course he went to the week of unleavened bread. Because that's what it's there for. And every year we're supposed to look at this in our own house, long before we pass Crino on a brother or sister. Are we doing that? And Amos, the prophet Amos here, 5:21-23, what was happening? You're not saying, I despise your appointed times. Your appointed times, I take no delight in your solemn assemblies. Even though you offer me your burnt offerings, your grain offerings, I will not accept them. And the peace offerings of your fattened animals, I will not look upon them. Wait a minute. They're trying to honor the appointed times? But he's saying they're yours now. You're not doing them for the right reasons. Take away the noise of your songs. You celebrate while you do these things. You dance, you sing, you do all these things. Whoa. It's the house of Israel. It's not the Romans. To the melody of your harps, I will not listen. My goodness. You mean we could be box ticking the Torah? And we could be in real trouble? Whoa. Oh, that's them. That's not our house of Israel. That's their house of Israel, right? And then we enter into that wonderful spiritual disease I call Amitis. And me first and foremost. Does anybody here, hands up, anybody ever struggled with Amitis? You ever had that disease? It's a real spiritual disease. Actually, come and get into us. I love our community. We're so honest in that sense. Sometimes it's freeing just to go, you know what? I've struggled with Amitis in my life. But we want to overcome that. Examine yourself first. Do this in Matthew 7:4-5. Or how can you say, let me take the speck out of your eye? So notice where it goes to. Matthew goes in this. So he's mentioning this first, and now he's taking it to this. And there's a log in your own eye. In other words, if you don't do the anachrene, if you don't do the action process of examining, discerning, properly allowing attention to this, you're not going to get the log out of your own eye. Never mind trying to deal with someone else, you hypocrite. First, go to this.
Okay, so how did I get to the point where I understand all of the Freemason stuff? Back in 2017, I went and got an antique shop in Mount Shasta in McLeod, and at that time, my mom and dad had both retired to go to Southern California and take care of my grandparents in their old age. My grandpa was only a third degree Freemason, but the whole rest of the family tree above my parents, with the exception of few people, my grandmother was not on my mom's side, but much of my family tree was Templar, which is 32nd degree, the most worthy Grand Matron of the General Assembly of the Sisters of the Eastern Star. So the very top woman of the Eastern Star was my great-grandmother's sister. My Grandma Dodie, my younger brothers told me that he had her business cards after she passed away, and that her business card said that she was in charge of the greater Los Angeles area for the Sisters of the Eastern Star and the entire state of Alabama. So my family tree included these people. When I went to Mount Shasta and my parents left from Little Country Church, which is a Sunday worshiping dispensational theology church connected to Calvary Chapel, then my mom's intentions were to go down and share the gospel with my grandfather until he would end up becoming a born-again Christian. So she went down and spent 6 years trying to evangelize Yeshua to my grandparents. While they were down there doing that, I started doing research of what do Masons even believe, so that I would be able to assist my mom in giving her direction of conversations using actual terminology that my grandpa should be able to understand. But my mom didn't really adhere, like she didn't seem interested in the times that I would try and explain, this is what's bad, this is what Scripture says, this is what's bad, this is what Scripture says. So as I'm doing this Crino Diacrino stuff, I'm in different YouTube groups, and one of the people in a chat said, Bethel are Freemasons. And it instantly clicked that all the stuff that I had been learning about all of that, the Mason stuff, I went over and started comparing that stuff to what was inside Bethel's habits. And I already knew since 2007 that Bethel had horrible teachings, like not scriptural whatsoever. And then prior to that, Bill Johnson and Chris Valentin were not in Redding. They were in Weaverville, where my best friend was running a coffee shop. His grandfather gave him the money to be able to buy a car, or was financing a car for him or something to that effect. But when the car got down here and we got in the car, that car was designed to murder my friends and get Bill Johnson and Chris Valentin back into Redding. That's what Chris Valentin's teachings of, if you have a religious spirit in you, you're to remove the person out of your life. That religious spirit is anyone who disagrees with the Freemasonic Luciferian teachings. If the person doesn't agree with those teachings, then you get to go. My son's mom used that teaching at Bethel to go to the courts and say, Brian's unfit to be Kaysen's dad. And then she went and got other Bethelites at nonprofits in town to finance a lawyer for her, so I didn't have one. And then the judges were only listening to what the mediators had to say. And the only judge that listened to me was during part where she had a restraining order on me for one day. I was sitting in the living room with my son on my lap, and he was about 9 months old, and he was at the point where the children like to arch their backs, and they put a whole lot of weight on their neck and on their head. Well, I put my hands on his, just above his kneecaps, and picked him up upside down and started blowing on his stomach. She called 911 and claimed that I was trying to murder our child. She used that 911 call and that restraining order to go to one safe place, now run by Bill Johnson's ex-sister-in-law, Kimberly Johnson, who currently has 2 other nonprofits that take children away from their parents and give them into Bethel-run orphanages. These people are stealing our children in the name of their Freemasonic Luciferian doctrine and making us live with whatever their imaginations decide to make us live inside of.
Process. Do what is required before Crino, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eyes. Notice this? There's still a speck going out of your brother's eyes in there. It doesn't say, and then you don't worry about the speck in your brother's eye. No, then you take it out. Then you do Crino. First, go through this process. Do what is required before Crino, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eyes. Notice this? There's still a speck going out of your brother's eyes in there. It doesn't say, and then you don't worry about the speck in your brother's eye. No, then you take it out. Then you do Crino. As it relates to the flesh, because it's a shadow picture, a test of something that's coming for the weightiest of matters when it comes to the last 1,000-year reign of Messiah and ending in the great white throne judgment. That will include all of the cosmos, the house of Israel, and indeed the messengers. So, can we be trusted? 1 Corinthians 6:1-3. When we were reading through this is what he's saying here. When one of you has agreements against another, does he dare go to the law before unrighteousness instead of the saints? So you're going to go straight to Crino. Stone him. Well, of course, what do we see happen in 7? What do we see Paul partake in? Do you think he knows how to talk to these matters? Who here has ever killed somebody from the house of Israel in judgment? Yeah, interesting how some people put your hands up because you killed them in your heart, didn't you? Murder was there. Oh yeah, Paul did it actually in the flesh. So this, he knows what he's speaking to. How many of us have killed our brothers and sisters with Crino of the heart? Are we guilty of murder? Who thinks we're talking about a pretty serious matter now when it comes to dealing with the house? You starting to get this? Our Crino from Messiah concerning the age to come depends on us getting this. Or do you not know that the saints will judge? Look at this. Now Matthew goes to the world to be judged Crino by you. Whoa. Are you even confident to try trivial cases? He's going, you can't even handle this. And yet, this whole thing is a test for this. That's all he's saying. You do not know that we are to judge the messengers, the angels. Now he makes the point. You don't know what this is all about. I've told you, I've shared with you the mysteries. We've been trusted as stewards with it. Look how you're dealing with the test. That's all he's saying. The only reason why.
30th degree Freemasons are given blue angels to guide them. Bethel leaders are also getting those same blue angels. The same ones, because they're practicing the same faith. Divas of the first ray. The 33rd degree gives to such splendid fellow workers spirits of gigantic size as compared to humanity and radiant white in color. That one was the white one. The 30th degree brings its angels also. The blue diva of the first ray. In blue masonry, the degree of HRA, we call in the assistance of certain 7th ray angels, which is the Great White Brotherhood of Light in Mount Shasta, to assist the officials conducting the work of the lodge or chapter in its 18th something diva da. You guys can read the rest.
All of it's out there. So he said to me, he goes, you know, I'm a seer. And I go, okay. Now I had known a little bit of...
To be quite honest with you, this is not even about cessationism or whether you believe the gifts are for today. This is about the fact that this man is not teaching biblical anyway. He's not teaching the right way because he doesn't. He's still in darkness. Okay? So let's continue.
There. All of it's out there. So he said to me, he goes, you know, I'm a seer. And I go, okay. Now I had known a little bit about him, and I'd known that he did see stuff, but I didn't see it, you know. But like just because other people have just said about it. And so anyway, he said, when you speak, there's a big blue angel behind you, and he walks with you. I really want to see. He walks behind you and he makes the word go in and become revelation. And he said,
now let's just look
at
this. Sorry, guys. Let's just look at this, right? Where in the Bible does it say there are blue angels that come inside of you and give you revelation? I don't see it in the word in the scripture, but really...
Same years, probably 4 months or 5.
He will point you to Jesus. Now, this angel didn't point him to Jesus. And the Jesus that he has is a false Christ. So let's continue.
It's only when you move. I went, wow, okay, thanks, bro. So I was at another conference, like same years, probably 4 months or 5 months later, and the lady came up, she goes, I'm a seer. I go, okay. Radar goes up. Because there's all kinds of things that people say they see, and I'm not. God's the judge. So I'm not saying that, but I need to know. So I've had lots of people come up to me and say, God told me that I'm supposed to do this, and I'm supposed to follow it, and I'm supposed to do this, you're supposed to mentor me. God told me that you're supposed to take me under your wing, and I'm supposed to travel with you. God told me that I'm supposed to come live with you. God told me that all kinds of stuff. I'm like, well, God better tell me.
Okay, so brethren, that's it really. I just wanted to show you that. And
my bed is shaking. I don't mean it's like trembling. I mean, it is shaking. And I go, oh, I think we're having an earthquake. I'm laying on my back and I look up and we have a chandelier in that room and the chandelier is perfectly stable. And, you know why when you just wake up, you're trying to you're not all the way there. You know, I'm like, I look up, I look at the chandelier and I go, that's weird. How come the chandelier's not moving, but my bed is violently shaking? And I look back just a little bit like this, and there's a man standing there. Like, I can see him with my eyes. Like a really big guy. I'm laying on my back, so I don't know how tall he is. Close to 7 foot, probably. And he has wrestling tights on. He's got no shirt on. He's built like... Bet you wish you wouldn't have said that. He's got no shirt on, and he's built like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but about a foot wider. He's got coal black hair. He looks like a Native American. He's got deep black eyes, and he's got his hands, he's got his arms like this, and he's staring at me like he's really angry. He's just staring at me like this. He doesn't say a thing. And I go, first I said, I said to myself, I just said out loud, someone broke into my house. And he's just looking at me like, stupid. And then I say to myself, well, this must be, because my bed is like, and I go, well, this must be an angel. As soon as I say in my mind, this must be an angel, right before my eyes, he vaporizes. So I call Bob Jones. And I said, hey, Bob. I said, I think I just saw an angel. He goes, yeah. He goes, did he look like an Indian? Did he look like an Indian? I go, yeah. He goes, did he have coal black hair? I said, yeah. He goes, did he have wrestling tights on? And no shirt? I said, yeah. He goes, was he in a bad mood? Was he in a bad mood? Yes. Was he in a bad mood? I said, yeah. He goes, oh, that Michael, he always in a bad mood.
The morning of my birth, I'm told of my parents that there was a light came into the room and hung over me. My people was not a religious people. They did not go to any church. Of course, this caused quite a stir among them. It's followed me all the days of my life. Recently, they took a picture of it in the scientific world, as shown here. You're probably familiar with this picture. It was proven by science that it was the only supernatural being that was ever scientifically photographed. To my opinion, it's the same angel of God that followed the children of Israel from Egypt.
Tracing, why did they visit you? Well, it was unusual. I've been in a season of fasting and still is. And there's just a time where I believe God's just conditioned his word for the earth. And this is the first time I've had 7 angels gather hands together to give me a message. Each one of them had a specific assignment, specific message, from the first angel on down to the last angel. And the last one was the angel that introduced the glory of God.
3 little degrees on this side and 3 little degrees on this side is a sneaky little way for these Luciferians to hide their hidden number 33. He also keeps doing all kinds of hand signs. Not that one. I'm just saying.
Bringing the glory invasion to the earth. And in other words, a wave of the glory that's going to come even at the close of the year, in the first 7 months of 2021, and even the latter part of 2021, and the first 2 months of 2022. So each one of those angels, because this was the first time I was given this visitation. I've had a visitation of angels, but nothing like this. And this is a time where I believe that God is just consoling his people, and he's ready to comfort them, ready to speak to their hearts, ready to let them know in the midst of all that you see taking place in the
of something that is coming for the weightiest of matters when it comes to the last 1,000-year reign of Messiah and ending in the great white throne judgment that would include all of the cosmos, the house of Israel, and indeed the messengers. So, can we be trusted? 1 Corinthians 6:1-3. When we were reading through this is what he's saying here. When one of you has a grievance against another, does he dare go to the law before unrighteousness instead of the saints? So you're going to go straight to Crino. Stone him. Well, of course, what did we see happen to Stephen? What did we see Paul partake in? Do you think he knows how to talk to these matters? Who here has ever killed somebody from the house of Israel in judgment? Yeah, interesting how somebody put your hands up because you killed them in your heart, didn't you? Murder was there. Oh yeah, Paul did it actually in the flesh. So this, he knows what he's speaking to. How many of us have killed our brothers and sisters with Crino of the heart? Are we guilty of murder? Who thinks here we're talking about a pretty serious matter now when it comes to dealing with the house? You starting to get this? Our Crino from Messiah concerning the age to come depends on us getting this. Or do you not know that the saints will judge? Look at this. Now Matthew goes to the world to be judged Crino by you. Whoa. Are you incompetent to try trivial cases? He's going, you can't even handle this. And yet this whole thing is a test for this. That's all he's saying. Do you not know that we are to judge the messengers, the angels? Now he makes the point. Do you not know what this is all about? I've told you, I've shared with you the mysteries. We've been entrusted as stewards with it. And look how you're dealing with the test. That's all he's saying. The only reason why he can speak this to them is because he's told them the mysteries, the understanding of the bride of Messiah, the millennial reign, the great white throne judgment. He has shared the what and the why of the mysteries with them. That's the reason why he can relate to it now, to them in a letter. Can't even trust you yang-yangs to be dealing with the most trivial matters in the flesh. In fact, shame on you. You're even going to Rome to deal with it. You can't handle it amongst yourselves. And you're going to judge the messengers? Really? You're going to Crino the messengers? Goes on to say, so if you have such cases, why do you not lay them before those who have no standing in the Kahal? They have no matters with the house of Israel, and this is where you're going to take them? So brother, sister, so you're going to go to Rome because you can't even deal with a dispute amongst yourselves, and you think you're going to sit and be part of the bridal governance of Messiah? I say this to your shame. That's what he's doing. Can it be that there is no one among you wise enough to settle a dispute? Diacrino. English there says settle a dispute. Is there no one, what he's saying, is there no one wise among you to separate, make distinction, disseminate, to know how to discriminate, to determine, to go through the process between the brothers? Wow. Oh, we didn't see the word judge, so it wasn't judge there. Interesting, eh? Anacrino, the verb, the action. The diacrino, then decrino. In that order, the process takes place because the blood of Messiah bought us for it to take place. Matthew 18, 15, 17, the whole process. And we know this of a matter of offense and things like this. And we often talk about the Matthew 18 process. But the principles of anacrino, diacrino, and crino are being applied here. And what Matthew is doing is executing that proper process. If a brother sins against you, go tell his fault between you and him alone. Anacrino. That's all he's doing. He knows the principles of judgment, so he's saying, let's apply it here in an application regarding offense. They listen to you, you've gained your brother. So if you do this the right way, you've gained your brother. But if he does not listen, take one or two others with you. May it be established, okay? May a charge be established by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. So now we're going to bring in the process of witnesses, this legal process. Now we enter into the diacrino. Now we're going to discriminate. Now we're going to take this matter and we're going to let others hear it too. So we're going to take this to the next level. If he refuses, then take it now to the wider house, to the kahal. And if he refuses to even listen to the kahal, then treat them as if they're outside the camp. Crino. You're gone. Do you see what Matthew's doing there? He has the same knowledge and understanding, but from the Hebraic perspective, it's the exact same thing. You don't honor this process. You want to go straight to cancel culture. You want to get them out of the camp, and you don't want to go through this, and you don't want to actually allow this to come from a place of a circumcised heart and renewed mind. You want to go straight to Crino? Ooh, can you be trusted with the judgment seat over the angels, over the house of Israel, over the bridal governance? If all you're doing is engaging in spiritual cancel culture now? By the admission of many hands on this screen, a lot of people put their hands up and says, anybody guilty of going to Crino, spiritual cancel culture? And I saw almost every hand that has a camera on go up. So we're guilty. We are. But we're going to start appreciating the blood of Messiah, aren't we? We're going to get reminded of this missing the mark, because this is a big one to get. We need to get this. How about suicide? The ultimate act of self-Crino, judgment, death upon oneself. And yet the scriptures tell us that we're not to be tested beyond what we can handle. I'm going to tell you this. This is somebody who's no longer with the Ruach. The Ruach's not participating in their life. They're wanting to escape this pain. And until you have lost someone to suicide or someone who's close to you or whatnot, many people I see judge people that have committed suicide. They Crino them in their own mind. And I'm going to say, let it not be this community. I've seen this certainly happen with Christianity. You don't know when that person got to a place where they would do the ultimate act of self-Crino upon themselves at their own life. But the hurt, the pain, the journey there, you're not capable of knowing that, but the Messiah is. Do we not believe his sovereign authority merges of righteous judgment in all matters? And do we not believe that in matters of suicide? Because this is one of the greatest examples that I can think of when somebody has self-Crinoed themselves and then everybody else left around them with all their spiritual self-righteousness and whatnot now Crinos on them again regarding the spiritual matter. The Crino on their life is purely in the test on the flesh at this point. The Crino of the spiritual matter is in the one who has all authority. I suggest we leave it there. You agree? Amen? You think you have the right to judge the person, and although they entered into self-Crino and should never have done that in the flesh, you think you've got the right now to pronounce spiritual Crino on them? Do we really believe that we have the right to sit on this throne while we're still in our fallen states? This is what Paul is dealing with, one of the matters of this time domain, this test. I know people, believers, who have gone there and done just that. I've actually seen so-called believers tell somebody who has lost a loved one in suicide, oh, well, they're going to burn in hell. My goodness. Sit now on the seat. I'm not kidding. I'm going to go even further than that. I've seen teachers preach it. You want this? Do you want this on the seat of Crino in the age to come? We better understand. We're in our little test now, and we will get this whole process. And if we can get this right, just maybe we can be trusted with what's to come. Do not rush with Crino. Matthew 7:1-3. Judge not that you be not judged. What's it saying there? Crino. Crino not that you know. Ooh, interesting. For with the judgment you pronounce, you will be Crinoed. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Do you think now, understanding the process before you get to that place, how important this is? Because when you Crino, so don't rush to Crino, but when you do, just know it's going to apply to you. Now you see, do you see the speck in your brother's eye and not notice that there is a log in your own? That's all it's referring to. John 7:24, do not judge by appearances. Do not crino by appearances, or the act of suicide, or whatever it is you think you're seeing. Do not crino, but judge with right judgment. So crino by appearances, but crino with right crisis. Separating, sunder, separation, trial, contesting. Isn't that interesting? Do not crino by appearances, but crino with what? The process that goes before it, right there. So now we have the Apostle John saying the exact same thing. Do we have 3 witnesses now? That's just 3 in the Brit Hadashah. Do this before you go there. Because sometimes you have to go to crino. It's necessary. And it should never be. So will Yeshua judge his people? Do you think Yeshua is going to crino his people? These are the ones bought and paid for by his blood. So does everybody realize, are we the people bought and paid for by his blood? Is he our high priest? Yeah. Great prophet Jeremiah in 17:9-10, and the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Who can understand it? That rhetorical question is going to be answered. I, your Elohim, search the heart and test the mind to give every man according to his ways, according to the fruit of his deeds. Wow. Now let's bring the subject of what we've just discussed here of judgment into this upon each other in the house of Israel. That is one heck of a mess right now. How are we stacking up? Oh, my heart's all circumcised, is it? Who here has a circumcised heart? Who's complete? Put your hand up. Yeah. See, by his blood, by his mercy, his great plan of redemption, we have the opportunity to now do this at the highest and weightiest level so that we can overcome, so that we can have and experience the heart circumcision. And if we overcome at this level from this place, apparently there's a great thing that's going to be entrusted to us. Now let's read Romans 1:12-1-2. I appeal you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of Elohim, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, set apart and acceptable to Elohim, which is your spiritual worship. What's your spiritual worship? Your living sacrifice. What's your living sacrifice when it comes to judgments of others that are in the house of Israel? Oh, what's your living sacrifice look like? It's your spiritual worship. Do not be conformed to this world. Don't be conformed to cancel culture right now, but transformed by the renewal of your mind. Look at this, that by testing the very thing that the demons and the pigs were saying to Yeshua. Amazing. That you may discern, Diakrino, the will of Elohim, that you're going to go to, you're going to apply this own process in your own walk, in your own life, and you're going to do this, and you're going to spend at least 1 week a year doing it, in the week of unleavened bread, to test what is good and acceptable and perfect there, which is complete or mature. To bring to completion and maturity. This is what the blood is buying us all right now, that we live this. Not only is Paul saying not throw it away, what he's saying is get the weightier matter of it so that you can do this process because it's going to relate to the age to come. And here I got you all taking each other to court in Rome and acting like silly willies. Do you see how he's dealing with this? He's going, I've told you the mysteries and this is what I'm seeing. You better get this. Because if I can't trust you with this little, how can I trust you so much? Too much who is given, much is required. We need to overcome matters of how to view judgment, but we must, unfortunately, still go into crino when necessary. And that's what Paul was saying. He used a high example of the incestual thing going on as, yes, I've gone to crino there, but don't think I did it before the rest of the process. He's not into cancel culture. But there is a house, and there are people who will not overcome. They will choose not to overcome. They will stay in their pride. They will stay puffed up, and they will cause division and discourse as a result. And the fruit of their behavior will be appalling. And what Paul is ultimately saying is you will need to execute crino at some point. If you're a steward of Messiah. Goes on. Romans 14:10-11. This is interesting. Why do you pass crino on your brother? Or why do you despise your brother? This is interesting. So you're not doing it from the right place. For we will all stand before the judgment seat of Elohim, the Bama or Bema. But the Bema here is a step, the space, the one that the foot walks, that takes up to the platform to be judged for your what? Your faith. The Bema seat of Messiah. We're going to come before him. What did we do? And what's given just before the Bema seat? Crino. Did you do this with the wrong heart? Can I trust you? What is the reward that is given at the Bema seat? If you can't be trusted with this matter, you didn't demonstrate it, you didn't execute it, and now I'm going to what? Have you be a part of the governance of the bride of Messiah? Do you see why this is linked in Romans directly to the Bema judgment? This is bride selection. Matters of judgment. Wow. For it is written, as I live, says Elohim, every knee shall bow to me, and every tongue shall confess to Elohim. The antecedent of this is the heart of crino with our brothers and sisters, how it relates to the Bema seat, and how we will relate to him in that moment. Wow. Let's finish here. Great Psalm 46-8. In sacrifice and offering you have not delighted. For you have given me an open ear, burnt offering and sin offering you have not required. Then I said, behold, I have come. In the scroll of the book, it is written of me. By the way, if you don't think this is speaking about Yeshua HaMashiach, then I believe you're greatly deceived. I delight to do your will, O my Elohim. Your law is written within my heart. Wow. David got it. He really did. May we get it, and may we understand that the matters and the process of judgment in the house of Elohim is required, but please, can we be the trusted stewards, overseers, to do this in the way that it is screaming the application of it, that we don't enter into spiritual council culture and use the Torah to bring death. Let us apply Torah in a way that brings life and raises people, that they may be able to digest the meat and that it may be pleasing in His sight. Amen? Okay, let's finish there and we'll come back for some Q&A.